Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Hello and welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Ev McLaughlin.
I'm Sierra Obermark.
And I'm Irvin Cateman. And I am so excited to introduce our guest, our returning guest from episode 1, the only, the iconic Grace Candido Beecher.
Woo! Thank you! What an introduction. Oh my God, I'm iconic. Yes.
Our new celebrity.
I appreciate that. Thank you. This is the only space where I could be considered that. Hey, I'll take it.
Yes, but you are considered that in these circles. Grace, for anyone who listened to episode 1 a while back and may not remember who you are, in which case, shame on them, why don't you remind listeners your Hogwarts house, your fast facts, who your faves are, and so forth?
Let me tell everyone, peek behind the screen here. They very helpfully set up like a thing for me to fill out, and I was just like, no, I'm going to do it right on air.
I mean, I assume you remember your Hogwarts house without writing it down.
No, it's like Slytherin or something, Slitherfin, something like that.
Yeah.
So Slytherin is my house, as you all know probably already. The funny thing about Hogwarts houses, though, is like I was originally sorted into Gryffindor and I swapped over, so I am a traitor in certain senses.
Good for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My journey to Potter, I think that, like, honestly, I feel like everyone kind of has this journey where it's like, I found Potter at a time when I was very, very upset with life when I was a kid, and it helped me get through that. It's like, that is very common at this point to hear, but that is for sure what happened to me too. So shout out to all you kids out there, or the former kids, now grown ass adults, sitting here like, God, this series still slaps. My favorite book, honestly, this is a rarer pick. I love Chamber of Secrets. That is one of my favorites, followed a close second by Half-Blood Prince. For obvious reasons, because my favorite character is Tom Riddle. Which, if people don't know at this point, I feel like my name just goes with that.
Right, it's Grace Candido Beecher, comma, Tom Riddle fangirl.
Yeah. It's like I'm giving my name at the doctor's office, and I'm like, hi, I'm Grace Candido Beecher. I spell it out for them. I'm like, I am a Tom Riddle fangirl. The doctor will see you in half an hour. Will you please sit down?
There's this amazing Wizard Rock song called The Office of Tom Riddle, and that's kind of just what I'm picturing.
You can't say that while I'm drinking.
Yeah, it's by Gadding with Ghouls, and it is excellent.
I have to look that up because that sounds very fun. I feel like a dark comedy following the Death Eaters would be exactly my cup of tea at this point.
Oh my God, yes. Well, Grace, today, while we're happy to have you, we did not call you for your favorite character. We called you for a least favorite character.
One of my least favorites. Though I won't say that I hate them. I just don't like them as much as everyone else does.
Your whole intro is just screaming those Slytherin vibes. Just saying. Just everything about this backs up that
Thank you
house.
so much. There's no higher compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's just a fact.
Oh my God. Read me like a book over here.
Yeah, because today for episode number 31, we have gathered to discuss the Weasley twins, Fred and George.
The much beloved.
The much beloved to most, but not all.
Mm-hmm. I am going to get death threats in my mailbox. Have mercy, please.
We do have some recommended reading. We have from Loki fan, They're Just Not the Same, except for They Totally Are, Draco Malfoy and the Weasley twins. And also not just Fred and George, The Twins Differences by Josie Kearns. We'll have those linked on the website in the episode description so that everybody can see what we're talking about.
They're very good. I really enjoyed reading them.
Yeah, I really love these essays.
They're impeccable.
Naturally, I found both of them. I especially love the one by Josie Kearns because so this came out like 15 years ago or something. But I remember it was one of the first times I read it and I was like, oh yeah, I guess they are distinct characters because yeah, in my mind it was 100% Fred and George, like as one word.
It's like it's an older article, but it still was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before we dive into it and all of Grace's hot takes, we want to give a huge thanks to Shruka over on our Patreon who bought this round of drinks at the pub. So thank you.
Cheers, everyone. Salute. I'm having some water right now. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Shruka?
We assume Shruka, but we've no way of knowing.
I mean, they sound like a JRPG protagonist for sure. I'm getting JRPG vibes.
I agree with those vibes. I think that sounds about right.
Impeccable.
All right, I'm going to show my ignorance. What's that mean?
A Japanese role-playing game.
Okay.
Any of the Final Fantasies, that's basically it.
Understood.
God, except for like the newest one. But yeah, I'll go off on that tangent on another episode.
Listeners, if you want to be the main character of a JRPG and buy us around at the pub, please head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the numeral 3 to sign up. We're offering bonus content, chats with the hosts, on-episode shout-outs, like here. And we'd really appreciate your help in keeping the lights on at the 3 Broomsticks so we can keep doing this and talk about Harry Potter for a long time to come. And with that, let's dive in to Fred and George Weasley.
Or is it Greta and Forge?
Or is it Greta and Forge? Thank you.
You know what? I will allow that it can be Greta and Forge, but it cannot be George and Fred. Like, no
So
way,
sad.
no how. It's not
Really,
allowed.
you call yourself our mother.
It does feel uncomfortable, honestly.
Yeah, George and Fred. Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
It doesn't roll. Yep.
Yes.
Which is why I think everybody was so devastated by the loss of Fred, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that, yes.
Right, because what are we supposed to call him? Just and George?
Well, they died as they were born in alphabetical order. So
Why you have to do this?
Yeah. So in accounting, we have a term for that called FIFO, first in, first out.
Oh my God. I had no idea that was so common.
FIFO's for everything. It's even for stocking food in a cafe or a grocery store.
Yeah. So like it's used for inventory. When you're valuing inventory, it's either FIFO or LIFO.
Oh my God. Wow, the things I've learned today.
Guys, it's tax season, so
you're
I'm like
probably
seeing
hopping.
tax forms in my sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, we can breeze on past that. It's fine. I haven't had anxiety attacks about work every day for the past week. It's fine.
Oh, Jesus. I'm so sorry. We'll breeze past that and we'll talk about some
Breezing
really cool
on.
astrology here, right? Breezy, much like Aries is not. Easy breezy, not Aries.
These pranksters, owners of Weasley's Wizard Wheezes and Wizarding World Defenders, were born appropriately on April 1st, 1978. April Fool's Day, and we've got some interesting information about what that means as Aries and etc. Ev, it looks like you did some of this interesting research here. You want to give us a spiel?
Given that you mentioned their star sign first, just full disclosure, I'm not really a star sign person, but I like looking those things up because I think they're fun. So I thought I'll look up April the 1st in case something good will come up. And yes, their star sign is Aries. So just full disclosure, I looked it up on this website called starsign.com or something like that. And they have the color associated with people born on April the 1st, and they say it's coffee, which is very specific, but okay.
Okay.
In one word, they can be described as expression.
I think that's fitting.
Sounds good to me. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because the shape that they propose is 2 circles, which is perfect because they're twins.
Oh, that is so
That
interesting.
is really stellar. Wow.
I like that.
Their strength is strong personality. Their weakness is dictatorship, which I think is going to come up with Fred being the bossy one. And then they're supposed to be most compatible with Libra, at which point I got very excited because I thought Hermione was a Libra. But no, Libra is a little bit later than her birthday. It is also in September, but Hermione is the one before.
Virgo,
Virgo?
right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hermione has strong Virgo energy.
Yes,
Yeah,
for
she's
sure.
a Virgo.
And the Weasley twins have strong Aries energy. I would know. I am married to an Aries. I'm wonderful. But yes, look, it's a lot of fire energy in this household. Okay, it's a lot of fire. I'm a Leo. He's an Aries. Our son is an Aries, or not Aries. I'm sorry, he's a Leo. So it's a lot of fire energy.
It sounds very Gryffindor to me, I might say.
Look, it sounded like a Gryffindor. We shall find out. I would be open to it, but I am saying sometimes you evolve past that.
Ouch!
You just gotta hope he evolves past that, before he turns 11.
And he gets saddled with it for
true.
life.
Once you're sorted, you're sorted.
Never allowed to change. You're in Gryffindor jail.
Well, Gryffindor jail is pretty good, so.
It is pretty good in terms of jails you could be going to. It's not Azkaban.
No. So if we double back a little bit on their names specifically, so I'm using theory I came across about why they might be called Fred and George. So according to this theory, I found it on MuggleNet in one of the articles that we can link later. Fred and George share their names with Prince Frederick and King George III, who are former Regency monarchs. Both Prince Frederick and Fred Weasley died unexpectedly, which admittedly doesn't leave you gasping in astonishment. That's a quote. However, George III developed hearing loss within 1 ear, and as we all know, George lost his left ear during the Seven Potters chapter in Deathly Hallows. So,
Interesting.
I don't know, a bit possibly slightly far-fetched, but I thought it was fun.
I like it.
No, I think it makes sense because a lot of the Weasleys are named after, like, Arthurian characters and so on.
Yeah.
So while Fred and George aren't, it's still, British royalty. It's still in that vein.
I think that's insightful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I actually looked up the Knights of the Round Table because I couldn't remember all of their names and hoping to find Fred and George there, but no, they aren't there. But,
No.
King George III and Prince Frederick, maybe.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, they are not appearing in this show.
Oh, sad. Am I the only one who thought of the Knights of the Round Table song when you said that? I have to know if I am that nerd. From Monty Python?
No.
Is that just me?
I didn't immediately think of it, but now I am.
I mean,
See, now I've infected
that's
you.
what I thought of because I just saw Spamalot twice on Broadway in the last few
I
months.
love
so
Spamalot.
It's very
it's
fun.
so good.
I haven't seen it since I was 16, so it's been quite some time. But it was great.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit for me too.
It's also the first Broadway show where I saw the original production and now it's a revival. And I was like, oh God, I'm old.
Oh, that's kind of
I am
fun.
so old.
We'll shake hands on that.
Yeah. One of the other shows that I saw when I was 16 was In the Heights, and now it's being made a movie. So, there's that. I also feel old. It was when Lin-Manuel Miranda was in it and everything. So it was before he was him. Which is wild.
Speaking of older individuals,
Right.
Gideon and Fabian is a good reference for these two names. Far older than our Fred and George here. Because they could be potentially named after these suckers. That was mean to say. They're not suckers. They're great. I call people that all the time. They're wonderful. I never knew them personally, but I'm sure they're fantastic. That wasn't meant as a slight, I promise. Don't judge me by my Slytherin roots.
But did you notice how they're always Fred and George, but Gideon and Fabian are always
Gideon and
Fabian?
That's true.
So,
I think that is
oh my
interesting.
goodness.
The F first and then G pattern. I wonder why that is.
That is interesting.
Wait, is that true? In the books, are they always Gideon and
think
Fabian?
so.
I think so.
I'll look it up right now.
Honestly, I don't recall them being mentioned a ton of times, but I feel
I
like
think
all the
it's
times
only-
that they was probably Gideon and Fabian.
Yeah, I think it's only maybe 3 times. But I know
Oh my God, the tragedy of them is
when they're going through.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Gideon Pruitt, it took 5 Death Eaters to kill him and his brother Fabian. They fought like heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the first one.
That stuff sticks.
Yeah, no, and same. Dolohoff convicted of the brutal murders of Gideon and Fabian Pruitt. Okay, so it's Gideon and Fabian.
Also, Dolohoff, who's on the Avery scale of Death Eaters, I think like 4 Averys, if we remember.
Oh
correctly.
no, he's like at least 7.
He's gotta be.
Dolohoff is a lot of
Dolohoff
Averys.
and Yaxley are out there with like, it's gotta be at least near to 10 Averys, right?
Yep.
I love that the Avery scale is still going.
Well, and then Yaxley is eventually beaten by George and Lee. So it's fitting to bring him up as well.
Yeah, it's all full circle here. That's amazing.
Though, if we're getting back to Fabian and Gideon, and how the twins are named after them, do we think that's because, like, Fabian and Gideon died in between, like, Percy and the twins being born?
I mean, they were born during that war.
Yeah.
So,
like, that's just what I've always assumed. But
I mean, that would make sense.
it's. I don't know that we get a specific date of their death, so it has to be around there. So it was either in memoriam or just in general.
Oh yes, I suppose that's true, because in their culture you can name people after living relatives. Like in my culture, you have to wait for them to die, which, I mean, you you still get a whole backlog of names you can use, but I'm always like, oh yeah, I guess they could have been named after them while Gideon was alive.
That's true. Yeah.
And for the record, like, Gideon and Fabian were not twins.
No.
Like, there's nothing in the text indicating that. That's been, like, a popular fandom misconception, but...
Oh, because they run in families, usually twins, right?
Twins, yeah. They're very commonly, they are, it's an inherited trait.
Yeah. God, I can't imagine. Podcast audience, another peek behind the curtain here. I had a baby, which is why I have been absent for a very long time. And I cannot imagine carrying twins. That sounds not horrendous. It just sounds difficult. I'll put it that way. It's
but you don't want a BOGO special?
I honestly, that would be like my dream right now. My husband is absolutely terrified of that idea, but I'm like all about it. I'm like, just get like 2 more. We got 3 done total. Good to go.
Yeah. 1 pregnancy, 2 kids. I mean, what a deal.
I mean, honestly, I had been thinking that for the first pregnancy, I kind of been hoping for it, because 2 kids would be ideal for our household, I feel like. And that would have gotten them both out in 1. But also, that's a more difficult pregnancy. Like, everything is more difficult with a twins pregnancy.
For sure.
But this is not just a pregnancy podcast, everyone. We're going to talk about how they were born. Fred was first, right?
Yes. Fred was first.
Which Joe Rowling, when answering that question, was like, oh, I always thought it was obvious. Yeah. Which, like,
that's basically,
fair enough.
That's like almost all of her. I was looking up so many things about the details of them, and almost everything is like, oh, I just thought that was obvious. Oh, I didn't say that already. Obviously, it's this. Like, everything she just like assumed we would figure it out about Fred and George. And which is why it was pretty funny, because, she's like, oh, yeah, obviously Fred is funnier, but he's also crueler. Obviously, Fred makes the first move and George follows. Obviously, George is the gentler spirit, but it was just... I thought it was kind of funny.
I think it speaks to just how vivid they are as characters in her head.
True.
Where she's like, I mean, I know them. Like, what do you mean you don't know them?
I mean, you kind of do know them through the series, though. Like, even I noticed the fact that Fred was the crueler of the 2, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, even when we'll talk about like their pranks and things like that, and a lot of them are Fred. Especially teasing Ron as a child, but or doing horrible things to Ron as a child, but
horrible things, period. But yes, I agree.
Yeah. But as very much risk takers, they're still, I think they're some of the clearest Gryffindors among the bunch. I think at some time it would be really fun to do a deep dive why like all the Weasleys are Gryffindors in their own way. Maybe that's future Patreon content or something, but they are, they're risk takers but they're also so brave in the face of punishment, danger, like all of those things. They stand up for the people that they care about. They're ready to defend you at any moment if they, are on your side. And so I feel like they very much embody all the kind of best qualities of Gryffindors and some of the worst.
Yes. Yes to that last bit as well. I mean, no, I definitely recognize when someone has enough courage to stand up for what they believe in. I think that that's an incredible trait to have. I do think a lot of their behavior gets edges on recklessness a ton of the time. Yeah. And that's...
You mean like Gryffindors?
Like Gryffindors.
As the only Gryffindor on this episode recording, I'm just going to sit in the corner and fume silently.
Ev, that's not very Gryffindorish of you.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I'm just, might plot my revenge. No, I won't.
That sounds like a Slytherin trait to me.
Well, that's why I actually won't. It does occur to me sometimes, but then it feels like too much work.
Yeah. Are you going to follow Grace's good example and leave the lines behind?
It's only a matter of time. Come join us.
I think I'm okay. I'm already married to a Slytherin. That's enough.
Fair enough.
Enough of the green in the house.
Actually, I'm curious. What do you guys think the twin secondary house would be? Like, if they weren't Gryffindors?
Honestly, Ravenclaw.
I was going to say the same thing, actually, yeah.
Slytherin for sure.
I don't know. I feel like with all of their inventions and everything, that really speaks more to like intellect and like ability and knowledge rather than...
Okay, but what were those inventions for, though? They were ambitious.
Yeah.
They weren't making those inventions for funsies. They weren't sitting there like, what can magic do? More like, what can magic do for me?
Well, it's more like, what can magic do for humor? And for other people. I mean, if it was just for me, if it was just for me, they wouldn't be selling them to everybody else. It was, and also like giving them to their friends and having people try them at school and whatnot. Like,
oh no, that was a testing phase. They were doing that to make sure that things worked correctly.
Yeah, that's to make money.
Well, yeah, but they tested them on themselves first.
That's true. They did test it on themselves first, but I feel like you would have to make sure that you're not going to kill someone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be tried for murder, but you cannot be tried for, I guess, abuse.
But Grace, this is Dumbledore's Hogwarts. Like, in Dumbledore's Hogwarts, like, they wouldn't be tried for murder. They'd be given, like, a detention and call it a day.
They'd be given a detention, and then Dumbledore would slip them 50 points under the table.
Right. They'd be like, well, also, it depends on who they killed. I feel like if they killed a fellow Gryffindor, then it might be like 3 detentions. Whereas if they killed a Slytherin, they'd be like, well, that's really
Don't
too
do
bad,
that, boys.
isn't it?
Bad.
Yeah, wag the finger.
Probably had it coming anyway.
How dare you? Outrage.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes we will.
Actually, my suggestion for secondary house, and I admit I haven't thought it through a lot, but maybe Slytherin for Fred and Hufflepuff for George.
Oh, how come?
Well, because Fred has, again, more of that, like, reckless, like, ends justify the means outlook on life. Like, Fred's the one who's like, well, let's blackmail Bagman because, like, better have my money.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Whereas George is the like, hear me out. What if we didn't do that? Mm-hmm. And George is the one who's, like, always more family oriented. Like Josie Kern said in her essay, he's the one who, like, is super excited about his dad being home and, is making Percy spend Christmas with them and all of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like George sort of emphasizes the loyalty more, whereas Fred emphasizes the ambition and the drive more.
Huh.
Oh, that actually tracks.
That's interesting.
That's actually really good.
I could probably get behind that. I do have a question, though. Do we think that George is a gentler spirit on the ground because he's the better Quidditch player and gets more of his aggression out on the pitch?
Get out all that aggression.
Sierra, how did you even tally up which one hits the most blood, just because even Lee Jordan can't tell them apart.
It's when it's specified, like hit by George or hit by Fred or whatever. But yeah, all of the countings of the bludgers is George has 6 to Fred's 3 of specified, when it's not just like one of the Weasleys.
Yeah. So it could be, it's anyone's guess. But
It's anyone's guess,
I
but
do like the idea that
specified.
like he's getting out all that aggression.
Yeah. And like, I will say that like in Lee Jordan's defense, because I've seen like some twins criticize him, that it's like he's best friends with these people, and it's like they are flying 50 feet above him. Like at that distance, I don't think you can tell Weasley twins apart. Frankly, you might not be able to tell Weasleys apart.
That's true. Yeah.
They're like, we see some red hair and scarlet robes.
If Ron isn't sitting right in front of the, right in front of all the rings, then like it could be anybody. I don't know. Maybe it's Ginny.
Yeah.
When did Ginny get on the pitch?
I love the descriptor of the Weasley twins being like a pair of human bludgers themselves.
Yes.
I love that.
Like that's just chef's kiss.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I think because of the movies, it's easy to picture them as the Phelps twins, but I think in the text they're always described as kind of shorter, stockier, kind of, you know, rugby player kind of physique.
Yeah.
Rather than, tall and skinny.
Yeah, they are. They and Ron share the same. They and Charlie share the same kind of more stocky build. But I mean, I get in movie defense, you don't know how tall a kid's gonna get.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Clearly, or no one would have cast Dan Radcliffe.
Oh, I love Dan.
Harry was
know about
supposed
that.
to
He's
be
supposed to be
short
shorter.
and undergrown, so it's okay.
No, but he's supposed to be taller, like, later on.
Well,
like, come Half-Blood Prince, he's supposed to be tall, instead of Dan Radcliffe's, 4'11"-ish, or whatever it was.
I think he's around I think he's like 5'7".
He's like 5'6" or 5'7",
maybe.
I think, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I've seen him. I've seen him in person. If he's 5'7", I'm a fucking giant.
Oh, no.
Well, maybe you are.
I will say, I think because I'm in Tom Riddle mode right now, every time he's looking through Tom Riddle's eyes, it's like, holy hell, I'm tall. Everything is so much smaller.
He's 5'5". He's my height.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, like, looking down from Tom Riddle, it must be such a mind
Oh, yeah.
because, like, last weekend I was walking around in stiletto heels at a convention, and I was towering over everyone, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I look down on people literally as well as figuratively.
Look, I can't imagine, because like when I wear heels, even I feel like I'm looking down on people, and I'm only 5'6", 5'7". It's like I'm around there. So, whew, my Lord.
Yeah. But yes, the Weasley twins are great Quidditch players. And I think that's part of how we like get to know them really well is like with the Quidditch team.
Mm-hmm. That's how you get attached to them.
Exactly.
I feel like they sort of serve the role on the team that everyone is like, Ron does this for the trio, where they keep up morale. Because like every time sort of Oliver is trying to like drown himself in the showers or something, the twins are there like cheering everyone on. And I'm like, that's really important on a team.
Yeah.
You do need that. Yeah.
Really,
Oliver
really
is
important.
very intense.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I love that one of the first kind of instances that we get of this is when Wood is giving his speech before the first match, and he's like, this is it. And then Fred and George are chiming in, the big one, the one we've all been waiting for.
Oh my God. Oliver's got to calm down, is what I'm saying. Oliver has to calm down, okay? Someone needs to tell that boy not everything is hanging on this match, please.
But everything is hanging on this
Well,
match.
it's not going to be McGonagall.
No.
I just want to know, like, what, because we don't really know anything about Wood outside of Quidditch. Like, what are his other priorities in life? What classes is he good at?
He doesn't understand the question. What do you mean other priorities?
I mean, in my heart, his other priority is most definitely Percy Weasley. But we can get on that subject on a later podcast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I want to know more about this.
Not Hermione Granger.
Let me give you a link to this fan fiction I'm currently writing as we're speaking.
Yeah. Grace, I feel like you should just like title your fanfics after the podcast episode that inspired them. Because every time we've ever done a podcast, you're like, I'm gonna write a fanfic.
I'm always in the midst of writing one. That's my thing right now. I'm pretty sure the last one was a Voldemort and Dumbledore one. So just in case you were wondering the kind of person I am.
I'm both intrigued and repulsed at the same time.
Yeah.
Just you wait, buddy. This is the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god.
But okay, so back to Harry and Quidditch.
Yeah, Fred and George like really help him throughout his whole time, like at all the time that they're sharing the team together. But you know, just key moments of thinking about them really supporting Harry, you know, circling below him in case the broom bucks him off. And when, you know, when there's the hexed bludger, Harry's like, just leave this one with me and you guys handle the other one. And they're like, are you insane? And I love this is all your fault. Get the snitch or die trying. What a stupid thing to tell him.
I mean, honestly, that I actually agree with them in this moment.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where I'm like, Oliver, calm down. My good sir.
But Grace, sports.
But yeah, and then
I hate it.
You know, retaliating
I
at
hate
Slytherins, trying to you know hurt Harry, or when you know that's how they all end up getting kicked off the team is because they come to Harry's defense when Malfoy is you know really giving it to Harry.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, they get into the fight.
I thought it was because
Malfoy's insulting his family like right after the match, and Harry punches him in the stomach with the snitch still in his hand, and they're just kind of there, and so then they all three get kicked out.
I feel like Weasley twins are a little ride or
They're
die.
very
right?
ride or die.
It's not so much that because in that scene, Malfoy is actually insulting Ron and by extension the Weasley family.
It's
so,
all
like,
of them, yeah.
Yeah, so the twins are there to like defend their family's honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he's also talking about Harry and his mom and stuff too. I'm finding it.
That's later on.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically the twins are already like raring to go, and then Draco starts insulting Harry's mom.
But yeah, so they're still, you know.
Talk shit, get hit. That's all that is.
Yeah.
And they have Harry's back, even not Quidditch related, you know, especially with rescuing Harry in the Fort Angliette. Like, my headcanon is Ron's at home for the summer. He one time is like, I haven't heard from Harry in a while. And the twins are like, we've always wanted to borrow the car. Let's go on a rescue mission. And just like jumping at the bit to go steal the car and go find out where Harry is.
They saw the car one time and they said, it's time. Mine.
Yes, I mean, I won't dispute that, like, they would gladly take any excuse to take the car, but, like, I think it's also part of how they've, like, adopted Harry, where they're like, well, if Harry's in trouble, we gotta go rescue him.
I think that Ron, like, we all know Ron's a bit of a whiner. I think that the second that, like, he realizes Harry's not sending back notes, he's going to be like, why isn't my friend sending me notes? And it'll be like
nobody loves me.
It'll be the next, like, 3 weeks of just straight every conversation ends with, I wonder what Harry's doing. I wonder why he's not messaging me back.
Yeah, he'd be wondering, but he wouldn't really be doing anything about it.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, because as much as he'd like to be seen and celebrated and whatever he sees in the Mirror of Erised about being the head boy and the captain of the Quidditch team, if all of that actually happened, I don't think he could handle it.
No.
Because he is actually quite passive as a person most of the time.
Yeah.
I think the kind of the energy and attitude kind of skipped him and went to Ginny with the everything is possible if you have enough nerve. I don't think Ron quite has that.
Well, Ron, I feel like is set up to be more the strategic one, right? He's more supportive and strategic. He doesn't get to use that a ton towards the end of the books, but I feel like he's so supportive in that, like, it pans out that he is supporting his friends once he comes back after his little hiatus from the party in Deathly Hallows. His absence is so, I don't want to go off on a Ron tangent here, but his absence is so keenly felt whenever he is not there. He is like the backbone, I feel like, of the crew.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to say he's useless, because I do actually quite like Ron.
And I'm also a whiner, so I appreciate his game here. I would also whine forever and wait for someone else to do something.
Yeah, and I was wondering, why do you think he is so passive, at least in some moments? Because I was wondering if it's because he's the younger brother and things just sort of happen to him or happen around him.
Honestly, that's a good thought. Because we got two people ahead of him with Fred and George, where like they are constantly proactive. There's never a moment that they're not using towards one of their goals. So like it would make someone who's born after them a little bit more passive.
But also like all of the Weasleys are quite like go-getters except Ron. Like he's just sort of really the odd one out there.
I'm not sure if Charlie is, but we don't know enough about him. I mean, we know he gets to do the job he likes to do, but we don't know anything about his temperament as such. He might be just the quiet one who just does what he wants to do. And
what ace icon, you know. Charlie Weasley.
Exactly, yes.
We love him. Him and his dragons.
Now I'm thinking of that song, Tonks and the Oar song about Charlie Weasley loving dragons.
Yep, Charlie Weasley doesn't really love me. He only loves his dragons.
Exactly.
But yeah, so also going back to when they rescue Harry, like seeing them in action, like during the rescue mission, is just so excellent. It's so satisfying to read. Even Harry's like, you had to hand it to him.
Yeah, they're incredible.
One of the small moments that I think like really needs to be appreciated is how they've learned to pick locks the Muggle way as a like just in case thing. Like this would be a useful thing to know.
I mean, honestly, like, I've got to admire the hustle. That takes a lot. I don't even know how to pick locks, so well done, boys.
Me neither. Like, yeah. I wish I did, because at work, we needed to get into, like, you know, some filing drawers, and the secretary was out and no one knew where the keys were. So literally, I don't know how much of the story I should say on a podcast, but our whole office was like gathered out a drawer trying to pick the lock to these checks.
Oh my God.
We got like the bobby pins, the scissors, the pens, and like we could not get it open. And we're like, wow, none of us has this skill set.
So, Irvin, if you wanted to learn how to pick locks, apparently you can buy one of those little transparent ones with a little set of tools, so you can see how things turn as you put the tool in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I have
Who wants to become the rogue of this party?
I have one lying around the house. They're actually quite cool.
I already know how to pick locks, so I guess that's me.
Well done.
Oh, good.
That's ambition, baby.
I think it might have been around this time when I read that Fred and George knew how to pick locks, because I remember being in I started driving my parents crazy because I'd go like up and down the hallway, just like locking the doors from the inside, closing them, and then being outside and like picking the locks. And I would routinely pick the lock on their door because for whatever reason it was harder to do. And so then every time I got it, I felt like really accomplished. But they're like, can you stop breaking into our room?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm not actually going in there. I'm just opening the door.
Oh my Lord.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I kind of forgot about that. Now I have these now I'm like overcome with all these memories of me sitting in the hallway, like feeling like I'm a spy, like creeping around. Nobody knows that I'm doing this, and like probably making all the noise in the world.
All of those little skills you never thought that you would use. They're going to come in handy in your adventure.
One of these days. You're going to dress up like a JRPG character, and then you're going to go pick some locks. There you go.
Wouldn't it be fun if they were taught how to pick locks in Muggle studies?
That would be amazing. I very much doubt they are, but I would love that.
Me too, but it would be great if they were like, oh, so we wizards have Alohomora, but you Muggles have, you know...
Mm-hmm. Or at least one day where you have like a bunch of locks and keys and lock picks and all sorts of stuff, and that would be fun, actually.
Yeah. That's their midterm, is just like, pick this lock.
I don't know about a midterm, but
What is a rubber duck used for?
what exactly
That
is
the
function
midterm?
of a rubber duck? But yeah, I mean, just going back to they really, I love the idea that they've learned to pick locks, not just because of like the hustle of it, but also just it seems like such a nice little take after their dad moment of like learning something that other people would find useless. And honestly, they probably got the idea from him because he's always tinkering. So they would definitely be like, okay, what sort of tinkering is dad working on and how can we use this to our advantage?
Oh no, they're totally into that, and they pay attention because they've that whole line of Weasley Wizard Wheezes products where it's just like Muggle magic tricks for nutters like Dad.
So much,
Oh my God.
just like straight for their dad.
There must be a market for it.
I know there has to
Yeah.
be. Well, they said there's not very good sellers, but I just love that they have it anyway.
Like 60% of the market is just Arthur buying all of them, and he's like, "Boys,
So
this is genius."
I love it. It's so cute.
That's so sweet.
I kind of picture them like humoring their dad and being like, "Well, no one else would buy these, but they make Dad happy when he comes to the store, so we'll just keep it on the
I
shelf."
know, I love
Keep
that.
a few off to the side. Yeah.
Do you think the twins might have used their lock picking or any other kind of muggle tricks to sort of fly under the radar of being underage? Because obviously when they're at
I'm
home,
sure.
they can use magic. When they're in Hogwarts, they can use magic, but, you know, they can leave the house. I wonder if they ever had some, you know, illicit excursions somewhere where they could...
Oh, I wouldn't
The
put it past them.
twins,
Yeah.
illicit
You know,
excursions,
minor
no.
burglaries.
I mean, yeah,
Where,
they pick
you know-
the lock in Filch's office and get his letter for the quick spell, and that's how they get the Marauders map. Or not the quick spell, sorry, that's Harry, but the Marauders map, they pick the lock on his filing cabinet, and that's how they get it.
Yep. Which, I mean, like, the gumption, like, the moxie to be in Filch's office and being
Also, the
like,
gold mine that they just hit, right?
"Yup."
That is literally like, it is their bread and butter. It is the thing to have for a bunch of tricksters.
I'm also a little bit surprised they didn't just, like, cast an incendio and burn up all of his detention slips.
They might have. We just didn't know about it.
I'd say
Actually, yeah,
that
you're
might be
right.
more of an expellable offense. And they do walk the line.
That's true. They get into that later,
Yes,
right?
they might put a toe across occasionally, but...
Yeah.
Well, also on the topic of muggles, there's an interesting moment in Half-Blood Prince where they talk about, like, going down to the village to, like, talk to this pretty muggle girl who thinks their tricks are just like magic. And I was like, is that the only time we've seen a witch or wizard show romantic interest in a muggle?
I don't even remember that moment. That's incredible.
It's,
I'm trying to think if
I think it's over Christmas break. It's when Ron throws a knife at them.
Oh my God, Ron.
He's just the worst.
Every time something like this happens in the books, I have like a minor meltdown now. Safety being my number one concern now. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's during a very frosty Christmas.
That's so cool. God, I didn't even remember that.
I think it's the only time it's, I mean, obviously, like, you know, we have, you know, like Ted Tonks and whatnot. So like we see it half off screen or like the end result of those moments. But yeah, I think that is the only time that we like legitimately get a mention of someone being interested in a non-wizard.
And I just checked. So it's George. George is the one who says, you know, we're off to the village. There's a very pretty girl working in the paper shop who thinks my card tricks are something marvelous, almost like real magic.
That's a
And I
very
was like,
George thing.
yeah, get it, George.
I don't think Ted counts, though, because he's a wizard. And the girl in the shop presumably just a random girl in the shop.
Presumably a muggle,
exactly.
I don't think we see anybody like that. Unless you count the movieism of the
No, we don't.
girl
count that.
and the no. It's bad.
I mean, so in the Apocrypha, Joe said that Cho Chang marries a Muggle, and I've always assumed it was Dudley because I'm a Chudley shipper.
Oh my God!
I'm a Chudley canon.
Why do you hate her so much?
I mean, Dudley
I
has
think
an
they
arc,
would be
man.
very happy together.
Yeah, Dudley ends up.
Dudley
all
comes
right.
around,
Yeah.
I mean, I know, but I don't know.
And I love Cho. I actually do love Dudley, which is a weird thing to say, I know, but who is surprised by the weird things I say at this point?
Yeah. No, but that's my point. Like, think of just how awkward family events would be if it was Cho and Dudley.
Yeah,
God,
very
I
awkward.
wish,
I mean,
I
just
hope,
chef's
I pray.
kiss.
a whole new level of awkward.
I love it.
Yep. Chudley Cannons, OTP.
It'll force them to do the introspection they never did in the actual series. Good luck, guys. That actually brings up an interesting point, though, when it comes to Muggles and the Weasley family, which the more that I think back on it, the more intriguing and kind of strange it is. I'm thinking about like Arthur with his sort of fascination. It's sort of like when I'm reading the books back, it sort of reads a little bit like how you'll talk to like. It seems a little bit like it's infantilized, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. But like sometimes you'll talk to someone who's within like the new agey community and they've basically like appropriated an entire culture because they like it so much and they don't realize that there's like an actual history to it. That's kind of sometimes what Arthur's fascination with it looks like to me. Like, why would you choose to heal from a mortal injury, possibly mortal injury, the old-fashioned way, when like literally there's the whole point of healing is to do it so that your body becomes whole again. Like if he was to do that again,
it's because the magic wasn't working. Like Nagini's bite was like magic proof in some ways.
But wasn't the case where like he actually wanted to get like these stitches and they were Muggle instead of being wizard magic?
Yeah, because
and then Mrs. Weasley was upset about that.
Yeah, because she doesn't trust non-magic uses, but nothing that the healers were doing was working to close the wound, so they had to resort to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it's not like he was dying or anything. He just had to keep drinking the potion until, it was all healed up. They didn't seem concerned, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, maybe the way that he speaks about like Muggles in general, where it's fascination rather than like a real like respect for the culture and why they do the things that they do.
No, it's not respect. It's more fascination and affection. I don't think he views them as equal. But he still views them as worthy of loving and protecting.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
and like you get these little hints within the Weasley household, like with Ron having like what is it, Martin Miggs the Mad Muggle, like that comic book in his room. I remember seeing that and I'm like, is this racist? Is this what I'm looking at? Is this a racist comic that Ron is just chilling with? That's like very common for like wizard children to have. And like when you mention something like the Weasley twins liking this girl that's within the village, it kind of makes me think, do they like her because she is ignorant of their world and they can use that to their advantage? Is that what is happening here?
I think they like her because she's pretty.
Maybe slightly overthinking it.
I'm sort of happy to take that one at face value.
I mean, there can be layers to that. I mean, they even sell love potions. So like there's a strange like weird fascination with like tricking people, I feel like.
Yeah, but that's what it's about. It's not tricking a Muggle. It's just tricking people in general. They're tricksters, they're pranksters. That's their whole persona. So it doesn't matter who it is, and it's not specifically directed towards anybody. Like they even specifically say we didn't give Dudley the Ton-Tongue Toffee because he's a Muggle. We gave it to him because he's, what do they say, like a giant prick.
Okay, but
he's a great bullying gift.
Subconsciously, don't you think that they were thinking that they could get away with it, right?
No. I think they were doing it because they've heard all the horrible things that he's done to Harry.
Yeah. I think that there's enough evidence from this family who has some views about Muggles that are perhaps ignorant, that they thought that subconsciously they thought that they could get away with it, which is probably what subconsciously is working with this girl as well.
I think that's a very big stretch, because, like, we don't see any ill will towards muggles. Like, first of all, Fred and George Weasley are never worried about getting away with things. Like, sort of, they almost want the recognition for their efforts. So, yeah, if they wanted...
They're worried about getting away with it. What are you talking about? When they get back with the Fort Anglia, the first thing that they do is get caught, and they're upset about it.
Well, that's because that's, like, a really bad thing. But, like, generally when they give, like, people their candy or play pranks, like, they very much want the credit
getting
for
caught,
it.
It could be taken away. So I'm saying that they're probably not looking to take credit for it, aside from with the people that want to buy it. Right? They love a sucker, is what I'm saying. And I think that muggles are kind of suckers to them.
But if anything, it would be harder to get away with Dudley because there's no one to just fix it, right? Like, if you gave it to a wizard, then, like, their wizard parents can fix it up and it's no big deal. If you give it to a muggle, it's a whole thing, right? Because sort of, you know, muggles aren't used to that and aren't able to handle it. So, like, if anything, they were willing to sort of take the rap for it in exchange for getting back at Harry's bully.
Choking on his tongue or something? Like, wasn't that the moment that Dudley was having a real rough time that day, if I remember correctly?
No, it was when Petunia started trying to yank the tongue out that, like, it all kind of went to
you're right.
hell.
It's Petunia's fault that this happened. It wasn't the twins.
Yes.
Definitely Petunia's
100%.
Oh, you're right. What was I thinking?
Arthur, said from the beginning that he could easily change it back, but Vernon and Petunia were already upset that there were wizards in their house, and so they just escalated the situation and wouldn't
were
let
they upset
him.
That there were wizards in the house, or were they upset that the wizards attacked their child?
No, they were upset that the wizards were in their house.
Didn't they also break half of their sitting room?
Yes, they were, but I feel like that could have gone through so much easier, right? None of that had to happen, Chief. None of that had to happen.
Well, it wasn't going to be a good visit
I feel like
either
in
way.
their eyes, muggles are kind of suckers, and the fact that they're taking an interest in a muggle girl in the village is kind of uncomfortable.
I don't think they have any plans to do anything with this. I think they just like attention.
Yeah, like, who wouldn't want to be flattered by a pretty girl?
She's really, there's a pretty girl who is interested in me, and she thinks it's so fun that I can do this stuff. They're not like going to then charm her for nefarious reasons. They just like that she likes them.
Yeah. Grace, have you never flirted with someone by showing them card magic tricks?
You're right. I do that all the time. I just walk up to my husband and do card magic tricks with my actual magic, though.
I mean, how else did you land
into
Nick?
Marriage, really.
Yeah.
It clearly worked for you.
Which is, I think, what the Weasley twins are trying to do is charm her into marriage.
Well, George ends up with a witch anyway, so it kind of is a moot point because he's clearly not interested in actually pursuing her, like, all the way to fruition. He is just enjoying some attention for a minute.
Assume fruition is
a relationship or any sort of relations. He just likes flirting with her.
I think that we just have like two separate views on like what they're thinking, and none of us can know. It's just my theory on it. I don't think either of us like are incorrect or correct. This is the way that I am seeing it.
Yeah.
I think if they were going to sort of take advantage of her or something, it would have been written differently. Mm-hmm. They would have said it differently. They'd be like, imagine there's this muggle girl in the village and imagine how stupid she is that she thinks it's real magic.
Right.
But they're not like that.
Right, like, we're totally going to get in her pants because she's impressed with our magic tricks. Like, they never say that.
That's true, but it's also Harry that's interpreting what they say, too. Which is, like, one of the main arguments as to, like, why Snape is always, like, the ugliest dude in the room. And,
wait. Are you saying you literally don't trust Harry to relate what people have said? Like, in the narration?
I more so don't trust Harry to relate people's intentions.
But it's not intention. It's literally what they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the words that came out of their mouth.
I mean, that's fine. Those words can be interpreted in different ways.
But he's not even interpreting them. But Harry's not interpreting them. We are.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be interpreted in multiple ways. I think that the point still stands.
I gotta tell you, Grace, I did not think that this would be the thing that sets us off.
I'm confused. How am I being unclear here? They said a certain thing, and I thought that it sounded a little bit skeezy, given how sometimes they talk about muggles, you know?
But you haven't said, like, the skeezy ways they talk about muggles. Like, they have said that they would not attack Dudley because he's a muggle, but
they did.
They said
No,
they attacked him because he's a bully.
Yes.
Like, they go after bullies, like, muggle bullies and also wizard bullies. Like, that's literally half of Order of the Phoenix. So, like, other than Dudley, like, what are your examples for their, like, ill feelings towards muggles?
I mean, the examples that I gave before is the way that they grew up, where it's Arthur kind of has an idea of what Muggle society looks like, and he idolizes it, and it's very cute. But going back to it, it's a little bit cringe. So I feel like when you're swimming in that pool, you're going to pick up some of that ideology where, like, muggles are kind of simple and backwards. And even Ron shows it when you go into his room. I said all this before. I hate to repeat myself. But I think that in having those as context, it makes that certain situation a little bit more uncomfortable.
All right. Seems like a stretch, but we can move right along. Moving right on to all of the pranks that the Weasley twins pull. Sort of like their whole signature in the books is that they are pranksters. So I say let's go over some of these pranks and sort of see which ones are funny and which ones are slightly less so.
Yeah, the first one that we hear about, not in the book, but in chronological order, is Ron's teddy bear being turned into a spider. This occurs when Ron is 3, which makes the twins 5. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so, and this is Fred, just to be clear. These, at the beginning, kind of all these like earlier pranks, mostly on Ron, do seem to all be Fred, which also points to that difference between Fred and George, of George being a little bit more gentle, Fred being a little bit more, like, I don't know, aggressive, I guess could be. I don't know if that's the right word, but
dictatorial according to his star sign.
It could be the right word.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think these kind of first things, which I'll go into the next one as well, like giving Ron an acid pop when Ron was 7. I think those are two similar but also very different instances of Fred's pranks, because Ron's teddy bear, the reason that it happened is because Ron broke Fred's toy broomstick. Fred is 5. He's not a wizard. He doesn't have a wand. He can't actually like do magic.
For sure.
It's all just like bursting out of him. So he's just an angry kid. His brother broke his toy, so he's just mad. And so that's how it like expresses itself.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think it's like a hard thing to like point to this as like, he was being cruel, he's bullying Ron. And it's like, no.
Yeah, he was just angry.
Yeah.
And it was a spontaneous magic, kind of like Harry's jumper shrinking and being on the wall.
I will say, if someone turned my teddy bear into a spider, intentional or not, they would be dead to me.
Oh, I mean, that's fine. That's also valid. But
like, I agree that it's not like damning for Fred that he did this, but also, oh my God, how could he?
Irvin, you're an only child as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do wonder if there's something. I'm an only child too. I wonder if it's something that we don't quite get.
No.
Because we don't have siblings. Because the stories my husband tells me, he's one of 7. He's the youngest of 7. And that's the reason why he knows how shampoo tastes like, because at some point he was about 7. And his sister told him that if he doesn't shut up, she will pour shampoo down his mouth. And he'll say, no, you won't. And then opened his mouth and presented it to her. And then she did.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, it's yeah. So a lot of this stuff, like I'm going to go into the Ron getting an acid pop. That's a very sibling thing to do. Like Fred probably just thought it was really funny, knew his mom could fix it. And it's just like, ha ha ha. Yeah, I've got siblings, and we were all very cruel to each other for many years.
I thought people have multiple children so they learn kindness and sharing.
I mean, yes and no. So like,
Yeah,
we
they
ended
learn
up
it the
kind of
hard
like,
way.
it would be like pairing off. Well, we ended up kind of pairing off in different, like at different stages. Like at some point it's the boys versus the girls. At some point is me and my youngest brother against the two in the middle. And so it was just, it all kind of, but there's a lot of fights. There's a lot of like getting under each other's skin and all those things. And so when you have magic that you can add in on top of that, it's just going to make everything a little bit worse. But the one thing that I don't think I kind of forgot about this, and I don't think that I will ever forgive Fred for, is that he used Ron's pet Puffskein for bludger practice.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
animal cruelty.
Okay.
That's too much.
That's not a good look.
No.
The instincts on this boy are worrying, is what I'm saying. Is this connects a little bit too well to like children who are like pre-psychopathy. It really does. It does. I'm not being crazy. I promise you. There's just like the instinctive insidiousness of this behavior. Because I'm not blaming him for just letting magic lash out. Like he can't control that. But also from the repeated efforts, from the repeated like instances, you see that there's not a lot of guilt involved, which is so worrying to me. Like that is not a good trait for a child to have. It's just not.
Yeah.
And like the Puffskein is just, oh my God, like torturing animals is like the number one way you are supposed to look for these triggers. These things. Yeah. These red flags.
And now,
So-
and spontaneous magic, like the spider, it's something that he chose to do.
Yeah.
Same with the Astropop, so it's different.
Yeah, for the record, it's not torture so much as violence. So like in Fantastic Beasts, and hold on. I'm gonna get the book out because I want to pull the exact quote.
I have it in front of me.
So is this the movie that
The
we're
original
talking about?
textbook?
Or the text?
Yeah. The original
I
one.
have it in front of me, yeah.
Yeah. Because he's not doing it to specifically cause the Puffskein pain. Like, he's not, like...
The quote is, I had one of them once. What happened to it? Fred used it for bludger practice.
But the text for Puffskein says, it's a docile creature that has no objection to being cuddled or thrown about.
Yeah.
So, like, this is what you do with Puffskeins, is you throw them about.
Yeah.
So wait, cuddled, thrown about, or beaten with a bat? Are you sure?
No.
Well, so first of all, we don't know that he hit it with a bat. Like,
bludger practice? What else is bludger practice?
Ron is literally implying that the Puffskein is no more after this has happened.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, I think there's a wide difference between, like,
he just went too far,
He went too far.
Yeah.
Like, basically, he was like, oh, Puffskeins like being thrown about. I want to play Quidditch. Let's, throw it about, and I'll practice for the Quidditch team. And then it went badly.
These are completely, like, benign intentions, and they just went wrong. Oh, wait, no. He ends up testing more things on children as he keeps going. If he felt bad about this, he would have stopped it. He would have stopped hurting
He did
things.
stop it. We never hear him throwing Puffskeins around for Quidditch practice again.
We don't hear about that specific instance, but we hear about him taking advantage of people who are more ignorant of him.
But what's that have to do with Puffskeins?
That means you're taking
I think
advantage
it's
of people who have no defense against you.
Puffskeins aren't people.
I think Grace is trying to say that Fred is a psychopath.
I'm trying to say he leveled up at a certain point. He saw he could get away with it here, and he starts getting away with it more later.
See, I actually think the opposite. I think that as time goes on, those tendencies go away and his jokes and pranks become less harmful and more fun. Because the next things that we see is bouncing snowballs off of Quirrell's turban, trying to send Harry a toilet seat, bewitching a prefect badge to read Pinhead. Like, those are not dangerous at all. Like,
No,
maybe
they're not
trying
dangerous.
to shut Percy in a pyramid could be on the line there, but there's no way they were going to get away
We're
with
talking
that.
about a little bit of aside from like the Voldemort thing with the turban, what we're talking about more is like kind of like psychological jabs. Like you're trying to tear someone down slowly but surely is what I'm seeing.
Like specifically with
like shutting the prefect badge to Pinhead, or it's shut him in the pyramid, put beetles in Bill's soup. Like all of these things are like, you're just trying to wear someone down. Like you cannot help yourself.
Yeah, but also like, again, back
Dragon
to
dung in Percy's mail? What a jackass.
No, but also think about how Percy has treated Fred and George their whole lives. He has always thought himself better than them, talked down to them. Like, we thought you were going to go the Fred and George route. Like, he does not think Fred and George are worth a sickle. He doesn't think that at all. So, like,
assumption.
Of course, they're, well,
we can't get into Percy's head to know
seen
this. Well, what I think that Percy's trying to do is reactionary to the chaos that Fred and George are bringing to the table. He's trying to show them exactly how successful they can be being more straight-laced.
I think it's the opposite,
Ron goes
though.
the opposite direction. He goes that he doesn't want to be like Percy. He wants to be more like Fred and George. He's trying to set an example is what I'm seeing.
No, I mean, I get that Percy's trying to set an example, but also all of the things that Fred and George do as a direct response to Percy's big-headedness and trying to be better than everybody and you should follow me because I'm the best. All of those things are because of Percy's actions. So, and that is a very sibling thing to do, is you're getting a little too high horse. I'm going to take you down to our, like, everybody else's level of like.
Well, some people aren't suited for relentless teasing, though. It's like we see that. We see him crack under that pressure and he has to leave. He can't take being completely undermined every single time.
Grace, he did not leave because of the twins.
He left
for his ambition and the ministry.
I mean, there can be multiple reasons as to why people leave. It could be like there's yet again, Tom Riddle brain. There's no one reason as to why Tom Riddle snapped. He didn't wake up one morning and say, "Oh, my ambitions, let us go." It was definitely a building up process. So one can only see that there's a building up process for Percy as well. He snaps. He can't stay in that place anymore.
Yeah, I don't think we see evidence for that. Mm-hmm. And in fact, based on Percy's reaction in the Battle of Hogwarts to the twins, I don't think he bears them ill will.
I don't think he bears them ill will. He loves his family. I think that's pretty clear. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't beaten down by the fact that the constant teasing that he was receiving. And the same goes for Ron. Ron isn't exactly fond of being teased by the twins every single time that it happens. He's not like, "Oh, those adorable twins. Oh man, I love it when they do stuff to me."
No, but also like we have to continue to remember, like, we are talking about children and teenagers, not adults.
For sure.
So like children and teenagers process things differently. Children and teenagers are more like their interactions with each other is going to be completely different than what we're looking at with an adult lens on the situation. Because when I was reading all of these as a kid, it made absolute sense to me.
Because it was funny, right? You're following the fun guys.
Because it's funny. Exactly. It's funny. You know people who pull pranks like this all the time. You know siblings who fight like this. You know people who are trying to be like Percy and be like, "Oh, I'm better than you." And then you have the little needling younger sibling being like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not." And that is just like a sibling, family, child-teen relationship that you can't look at from the same context as an adult, because as an adult you're going, well, if my coworker did this to me, I would get them fired. Well, that's not the same thing. Like, you can't look at it through the same lens. So like,
it doesn't mean that people don't react poorly to being teased constantly.
That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. People do react poorly. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of plenty of teasing over the course of my life, and I've been bullied, and I like tried to always take the high road and everything and just let things play out. But I know that it happens, and it didn't cause me to move schools or leave. I left because I wanted to leave. It was not a factor. Like, it was completely separate. And especially if it's your family, like, that's not, I don't see that as a reason for Percy leaving. I mean, maybe that's an advantage. Maybe after he's gone, he's like, "Oh, I don't have to deal with that anymore." But I don't think that's like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a nexus.
I'm looking at this more in terms of like, what is it? Like death of 1,000 blows. Like it's 1,000 tiny blows. You just can't stand it at a certain point.
People do have different temperament and different tolerances.
Yeah,
too.
but I also think Percy, he has a thick skin from all of this. Like, it has to at some point just not bother him because he knows that's how Fred
we
and
never
George
see
are.
him really be upset
No.
From their teasing. Like, Ron, yes.
One time
Ron
we
gets
see with
upset.
Percy when they do when they throw the turnips at him, but we don't know if that's Ginny or Fred and George.
Right, yes.
They all claim responsibility, but
yeah. But like, when they're actually living together and being a family, we never see it get to Percy. Like, it's sort of like cartoon style. He like chases them all over Gryffindor Tower trying to like get the badge.
I mean, he does withdraw into himself, and that's not a great sign.
I think he was always withdrawn.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of
we
person
don't
he
know
was.
that.
Like
I don't know.
Chamber of
in
Chamber of Secrets, he's already withdrawn because he's talking to Penelope and he's writing to her all summer, and so he's hiding in his room and he's not participating with the rest of the family. And
it's a strange coincidence that like the fact that he always gets absorbed in schoolwork, his girlfriend, work, and he doesn't spend a lot of time at home. And I have to start to question why.
What do you mean he doesn't spend a lot of time at home? He's
always
as
at
much
home.
I mean, I guess he doesn't spend a lot of
rest.
time with the familia if you're like going to be particular about this. I feel like he's usually the one who's like, oh, time to get to bed. I have to go to work in the morning. I have some work to do. I got reports I need to get to. I have to study for A, B, and C. Like,
but I think that's more just his personality as someone who's
he's
very,
a workaholic.
Yeah, he's a workaholic. He's very career driven.
But being a workaholic is typically a defense mechanism. It's not something that you should be trying to do. No, it's not a
positive thing. It's almost always very negative. But
well.
I think that it's just that's who he is. He wants to be consistently working. He wants to be more mature than the rest of his family, probably because his two older siblings, while having a fun side, are much more mature, whereas most of the siblings on the other side of him are all very immature, both because of age and just in general. And so he's trying to bring himself up to the level of Bill and Charlie while still living at home, still going to Hogwarts with the rest of them, still being young.
That's an interesting point. Because I feel like
I think he's trying to reach that top level of the family and be better than his father, be better than his mother, be the best Weasley in terms of like respect in the community and like work and everything. And so I think he's constantly trying to bring himself up and distance himself, not specifically because of anything that anybody's doing to him, but just because that is the type of person that he is.
I respect that. And I think that that's an interesting theory. I don't see why both of those can't exist in the same space. Because I feel like they can feed each other. It's very rare that it's one thing happening or the other. Because if someone was constantly undermining my accomplishments, I would probably not seek to be around them. Mm-hmm. And if I was a child, I would definitely seek another space, even more so. Because as an adult, I can probably take it a bit more. I can sit in a meeting for a while while someone takes credit for something that I've done. But I don't know if I could do that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's fair, but also, like, you're not Percy. I feel like if you are in a large family of Gryffindors and you grow up with this, there's every chance that you just develop a thick skin and it doesn't bother you as much.
It's an interesting theory. I'm looking forward to seeing what your listeners have to say about it.
I like this. Yeah, I would love to see comments on the relationships here, because this has been very interesting.
oh, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
like,
great.
I really should have brought popcorn.
I'm glad you guys are.
Yeah.
You're like my buck wild theories over here. That's all that we're doing. We're just having fun with theories.
I'd love to hear more about people who grow up in large families with regards to whether, it's possible to not develop a thick skin, because I feel like there should be enough variation between people that some people do develop thick skin and some people just get ground down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I will say most of the people I know who are siblings, like, yeah, they had childhoods where like there were definitely acts that went against the Geneva Convention. Like, they're like, oh yeah, we like deluded my sister into like thinking that like, you know, if this happened, like her tongue would fall out for like 2 months until our mom discovered that. And I was like, what? So like, I realize I can't speak to sibling dynamics, but my impression of them is that like some messed up shit happens and it's just part of the deal.
Pretty much, especially if you're close in age.
I used to wish I had siblings, and now I don't.
I mean, I say as someone with a sibling, only a singular sibling to speak for here. Of course, shit happens, but I feel like if my sister, and I love her very dearly, if she ever did anything that like Fred and George were doing to Percy, I would have had a fit. I would have had a conniption. It would have not been pretty. So I'm just, if someone was wearing me down day after day after day, I honestly, I don't think I would have lasted as long as Percy did.
Well, yeah, but that's because Natalie is lovely and probably always has been. So
we
you didn't grow up with the
had our
conditioning.
times where we were not lovely individuals, I would say.
I don't believe you. Not for a moment.
Can somebody define conniption for me? Because I'm really curious.
Oh, like having a fit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great word. I like it.
It is, right?
Yeah.
I'm now terrified of using it wrong. As I've said it on your podcast, I'm now terrified.
It sounded right to me.
It's in the same bucket as apoplexy and dropsy and all of those like consumption, all the old ailments.
Right.
Yeah. I found such a good word on Twitter. Jonathan Stroud was tweeting about a show, and he's like, you know, what coruscatingly brilliant performance. I was like, coruscating?
Ooh,
and it's like a fancy way of saying like glittering and sparkling, and I was like, done. This is entering my lexicon. I always need more words for that.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. I'm going to need that for my book because all of Tom's performances are just glittering nonsense.
Right? Oh, dude, when I was writing my current book, I was like, I had Thesaurus open the whole time.
You gotta.
Because I'm like, how many ways can I say that Malfoy was a little shit without using those words?
Oh my God. So good.
Yeah. But okay, back to the Weasley twins.
Yes, and their pranks and their shenanigans. But something, you know, you can say conniption with confidence, but something that will not get you through with confidence is trying to fool the age line.
Oh my God. See, that hurt no one but themselves. I'm actually fine with that one.
Favorite.
Right? That's actually, it's just
yeah,
them.
see, exactly.
I wish there was more of that.
I love those ones where it's just kind of like in general shenanigans, like the wildfire whiz-bangs in the corridors, the portable swamp in the corridors,
so
like that type of stuff is so good, and I do love where it's just kind of like, let us cause chaos.
It's at the primo level of lovable is when they're not hurting someone, unlike when they almost kill the boy.
When they shove Montague into the vanishing cabinet.
I know.
I will say, on the one hand, Montague is trying to abuse his inquisitorial squad powers.
And we know they don't like bullies. Like,
we know they don't like bullies.
Back to that.
And also, we don't, like, they assume, I mean, I don't know if, I guess we need to know more about, like, what people know about a vanishing cabinet. But, like, wouldn't you kind of assume that they just figured he would show up in, I don't know that it's not obvious that there's a pair. So like he would just be like, oh yeah, they're just going to pop up somewhere else. We don't know where we sent him. And also like they didn't necessarily know that it being broken would get him trapped and all these things. Like according to Draco, they did almost kill him, but also how are they kind of supposed to know? Like it's like you're bullying us and the vanishing cabinet's right here. Goodbye.
Yeah, like I understand.
Like just shoving them into the nearest door.
I understand the mindset going into this. Like there's a lot of just weird stuff happening and they can't really assume that he's going to almost die by getting shoved into the cabinet. I get that. Right. What I want to know, and I don't think we're ever going to know, and I assume the answer already is, did they ever apologize for this?
Not a chance in hell.
There's not a chance.
They apologize.
Not ever.
Because they almost killed him.
But they didn't kill him.
I didn't think they were going to.
Okay, I want you to repeat the words you just said back to me.
Okay, I will, and I will follow up on them. but they didn't kill him because the books, especially Dumbledore, but the books in general, have a very consequentialist view of morality, where it matters less like what you meant to do or what could have happened than what did happen. So because under a consequentialist view, as long as they didn't kill him, it's almost sort of a no harm, no foul thing. If they had killed him, then, souls torn apart, bad news, and on and on and on. But
this does not hold up. This is insane. This is insane. If you almost killed someone, would you not want to apologize to them?
No.
I have a question.
Not if they had it coming.
I have a question about the Vanishing Cabinet.
You are unhinged. What is this? This is a topsy-turvy world. What is happening?
Well, Grace, don't try to take house points from me.
Irvin.
A question about the Vanishing Cabinet. So, did the twins know what a Vanishing Cabinet is? And I mean, did they know exactly what it is and not that there is a cabinet that people call Vanishing Cabinet just standing there?
I mean,
doubtful.
I don't think.
Probably not.
Does the text ever make it clear? Please remind me. I'm sorry. I've been mind foggy. Please.
So pretty much the only time we hear about the Vanishing Cabinet pre-Half-Blood Prince and all that is when Peeves breaks it and Nick is like, he broke a very valuable Vanishing Cabinet. But so pretty much the Friend George would have never known what it was. They would have never heard of it. Like, it's just a random cabinet, and they're like, we'll shove them into the cabinet and see what happens.
Yeah, so they wouldn't necessarily have known that it's that it's any more dangerous than just shoving them in any kind of, a wardrobe, a regular cabinet.
Well, okay, but so on this
the intention
occasion
to hurt him more than just, confine him to a space, which isn't great. The intention to hurt him any further than that wasn't there. So technically speaking, they couldn't have anticipated that it's a part of a magical pair of cabinets and one of them is broken and he's going to get stuck and so on and so on.
That's true, but I would argue that doesn't really matter because what ended up happening is quite different. What I'm asking is, do they feel guilt for this? And the fact that we can all kind of agree that they probably don't speaks to a lack of functionality in the prefrontal cortex that makes me very nervous, okay? The fact that they can look at a child, I know that they don't like this kid. They can look at another kid who has almost died by the actions that they did and say, well, no harm, no foul. Let me shrug this off and go about my day. I would be losing sleep for months over this.
I don't know that they know because Montague shows up after they're gone. Mm-hmm. And they don't have any contact with any of the Slytherins ever again. So how are they even...
They would know he disappeared.
Well, they think that he's just going to show up in a couple days.
It's the birth of Jorkins all over again.
Okay, but even for a couple of days, right? Imagine that you're in limbo for a couple of days. That can be disastrous. Imagine, what if he had a health condition? What if he needed medication? There's so many things that could have gone wrong with this. And yes, I know they didn't. But the fact that they didn't...
It's the 90s, nobody needed medication.
Also, they're 17. Yeah. You don't think about anyone needing medication.
Okay. But my point still stands. There's no guilt or apology here. This is so bad. This is so worrying.
You're awfully touchy-feely for a Slytherin, Grace.
Yeah.
I am extremely touchy. I cry on a dime. Are you kidding me? I'm very touchy-feely. I am.
Grace, did you cry for Montague?
No, but I did cry for Colin Creevey. I did not, however, cry for Fred. I'm so sorry.
Oh, wow.
I had a feeling that was going to be one of my questions down when we got to the outcomes. It was going to be if you did.
And this isn't even me not liking Fred. It's just I just didn't feel it as much as everyone did.
Did you think you had it coming?
That's fair.
Oh, God, you
Tell
can't
the truth.
ask me that. You can't ask me that. No, I don't think that. I honestly do not think that anyone deserves to die. I don't think that even slightly. And I think what actually even enrages me more by the implications of that is that a lot of people will say, well, Percy should have died instead, which I think is one of the worst things that you can say. You're wishing, not only are you saying that someone's life is worthless, you're wishing that they would die. It shows a real lack of imagination and honestly a lack of empathy.
I'm going to out myself here. I was one of those people who thought that.
Oh, no!
When first reading, but let me explain my thought process on that. Like now, so
First reading, we were a lot younger back then.
because I was putting myself, but also I was putting myself in the, I am reading a book. And if a character has to die,
yeah,
not a real person, but if a character has to be removed from the story, I would prefer it to be a character I'm not a fan of. So like when I was like, I didn't like how that scene played out where Percy got to have his redemption and immediately one of my preferred characters had something bad happen to them. I didn't like how that played out. So I also had a feeling that it would be more impactful in my mind if Percy were to have his redemption a few pages before and then sacrifice himself for them or something of that nature. I just thought that I don't want Percy to die in vain. I'm not like trying to get him killed or something like that. But I just thought if somebody in that moment had to die and it had to be kind of one of the more main characters.
Like pull a Kylo Ren and die for your sins kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. I would prefer it to be a little bit more impactful and not just, it felt very, well, one of them has to die. I pick this one, which also on that topic, she has stated that she thought everybody would assume George would die. And so that's why she had Fred die because she thought it would be more shocking.
I mean,
which sure as hell was shocking.
Yeah, I feel like going back to that time, like, people didn't think either of the twins would die because it's just like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like,
it's
either below the belt.
Both. Yeah, it had to be both or none. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, even Molly's Bogart is the two of them dead together because, like, you can't picture one without the other.
Even in her worst nightmares, she can't imagine the two of them apart, which is in itself heartbreaking. And I think so here's my question. If you didn't feel sad for Fred dying or it wasn't as impactful to you, which is fine, is valid. Do you feel for the other Weasleys who then have to grieve him? Like it was that more impactful to you than him dying himself?
I know we're hopping right back to like the first time we read the final book. But for me, that whole the whole battle was almost a numbing experience because I was just waiting for when Tom was going to get killed. Because I was like just preparing myself. I was like, there's no way he's making it out of here alive. How is this going to happen? So like everyone that died up until that moment, even Colin at the time, I didn't like, it was just a back note. I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Oh my God. I think it was going back and rereading it where I was like, oh, this is actually like very heartbreaking. So yeah, I definitely did. I felt it for the family.
Yeah, I think I kind of going back to that like first time reading. I think even I like it hit me and I think I just became like so shocked at that moment. But then when there's the description of Harry could not see Fred's body because his family surrounded him. George was kneeling at his head. Mrs. Weasley was lying across Fred's chest, her body shaking. Oh my God. Mr. Weasley stroking her hair while tears cascaded down his cheek. I'm like getting choked up.
I just got choked up. Stop. Like, you got to stop right now.
Yeah. So like that definitely hit me harder. Like, I think I kind of, like I'm remembering like reading that whole section and like when all these things are happening and you're seeing the bodies and you're seeing who's dying and you're seeing all this stuff. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, reading.
Numbing.
And then you get to when he walks into the Great Hall and then you see the like I was sobbing, like completely sobbing the entire time reading just Harry looking at the bodies on the ground. Yeah. Like that was heart-wrenching to me. So like I can kind of see your like view of that of like at the time it wasn't impactful, but like kind of the aftermath and like what it means. Yeah. Like that.
I mean, that is the struggle, right? When you lose a family member, it's you're mourning for the lost possibilities. You're mourning for everything that like I wish that you were here right now so you could see, which I'm sure is what George is saying. Which is so sad.
I mean, I remember when I was reading it, like it was devastating. Like I think Fred's death is probably the most upsetting one in the series after Harry's, Because, like, yeah, like, the forest, again, just broke me. But, like, because I liked Fred so much, like, and just because, he, like, it's such a loss because he's so full of life. Like, you know, he has so much joie de vivre.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, sort of all of that loss and the way his family responded, just, yeah, absolutely gut-wrenching.
It's just horrendous. It is.
Yeah.
Is it weird that I actually, like, I thought that the journey, this is off topic, but the journey back to the forest, it actually didn't get me as bad because I knew Tom was dying by the end of this. I was like, there's no way Harry is dying. This is ridiculous that anyone would try to convince me otherwise.
I mean, I wasn't crying for the fact that that I was worried he was going to die. I was crying for, like, how he felt, like, as he was going.
For sure. Like, I think there were definitely emotions attached to that for me.
Passing the people as he's leaving. And
that was the Colin Craving.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm so wildly off topic right now.
Also, can I say something horrible and devastating?
Sure.
oh gosh, yes.
So I've had people who were mad at me about this for years, but do you know what Molly Weasley's last interaction with Fred is?
Oh no.
Percy swallowed. Yes, I was. Well, you can't say fairer than that, said Fred, holding out his hand to Percy. Mrs. Weasley burst into tears. She ran forward, pushed Fred aside, and pulled Percy into a strangling hug.
Oh, jeez.
Last time they interact, she pushes him aside.
Oh, I just got chills in a bad way. Oh. That she must feel, I mean, now just like, oh God. Thinking as a mother, as three of us are.
Jeez. Oh my God. Holy hell. Also, I can't, this is a subject for another episode, but I feel like we need to have an episode about motherhood. That would be so cool.
Grace, we already did.
You did? I missed it.
Yes.
They did.
Yes, we had a whole Mother's Day episode. It was great.
I'm banished to the Shadow Realm. I'm so sorry.
Banished to the Shadow. More generally about families might be interesting.
Yeah.
Just different family dynamics.
Just family dynamics. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that Mother's episode.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I feel like we need to move to a happier topic unless we are not done with the depressing topic.
Want to talk about the Quidditch tournament?
Yes, let's talk about that. And how absolutely insane of a bet.
Right? They really are intelligent.
This is. Okay. I will say, though, my logic, Ireland has the better team overall, but Crumb is the better seeker. Therefore, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that Ireland would score more points, but Crumb would get the glory of the snitch. But it's still wild.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so specific, right? Y'all got to be like Trelawney here
exactly.
and have a prophecy to know this.
No, I remember after this, there were so many theories that the twins either have the sight or like are time travelers, that they're around with time turners. Like the whole fandom was like, what is going on? And
that's so crazy.
So Emerson Sparks asked Joe about this in their 2005 interview. So Emerson said, how on earth did Fred and George know that Ireland would win, but Bulgaria would get the snitch? And Joe, as she usually does when asked about the twins, she's like, well, I think that if you were really into Quidditch, you could have predicted that, what they had. And Emerson is like, but how can you predict that? Because you don't know when the snitch is going to show up. So Joe said, it was a risk. They risked everything on it. That is Fred and George, isn't it? They are the risk takers in the family. You've got Percy at one end of the family, conform, do everything correctly. And you've got Fred and George who just take a totally different life path and were prepared to risk everything. They risked all they had, which is as much as anyone can do.
So you know what I like? I like the way Fred and George are tricksters, right?
Yep.
They're born on 1st of April. They're all about their pranks and tricks and taking risks. And what's associated with tricksters? Dice, odds,
Yeah.
So it seems perfect that it would be in their wheelhouse to, make this wild guess, however they justified it at the time, and be correct.
Yeah.
And also something that's fitting kind of in that vein is that their patronuses are magpies.
One for sorrow, two for joy.
I forgot that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I somehow totally missed this.
She said I guess she was asked on Twitter and was like, "Oh, have I never said this before? I could have sworn I said it." Basically classic. And said, it's basically like there's always that saying, one for sorrow, two for joy. Plus they're talkative thieves. And I love that.
Very, very cool.
And they're very intelligent as well.
like that.
They're one of the most intelligent birds.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We have tons of magpies out here, and let me tell you, they get into some stuff.
Grace.
What's up?
I have something for you. Mm-hmm. Do you know which character is described as a magpie in the series? The only character as far as I know?
Is it the person I'm thinking of right now?
It probably is.
Is it Tom?
It is Tom.
Hey, see more connections between him and the twins.
Amazing.
in Half-Blood Prince, after reviewing one of the earlier memories, Dumbledore's like, and Harry, notice this magpie-like tendency to like steal objects and squirrel them away.
So interesting.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
I just
What a good little bird.
Yeah.
So you know what's interesting to me, Grace, is just you have such a strong moral compass when it comes to twins, and yet your favorite character is Tom Riddle. I wonder how that.
Oh, do you think that I would defend his actions? Oh,
Not necessarily, but you seem to be kind of repulsed by Fred's,
misdoings.
Mischief, yes.
So I would have thought you would have something similar with Tom.
I'm just like, there's this one video game that no one else has played but me called Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. If you've ever played it, it's a good game, but the gameplay is a little shoddy. There's a character in it that has this quote that basically boils down to, I am wearing all these different colors. He's got like this crazy outfit on. I'm wearing all these different colors, and these people suspect me. And that's actually like a proper assessment because I'm a thief, or he was like some sort of thief. And he was like, but you only wear like two colors. I don't know what to think about you. So I feel like we know that Tom is evil from the beginning. His stuff never flies under the radar for us. But the twins are something that snuck up on me because during the first reading, I was just as charmed as anyone else. But I think when it came to rereading again and again, it was more and more clear to me how their antics are less charming and more harmful. So like Tom has always had a singular goal. And like the Weasley twins, they have their singular goal, but people see it as a good thing, which like always, it always read as a little strange.
That honestly, that makes me think, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt either.
Go ahead.
Your quote made me think of Jack Sparrow. Where he says, me, I'm dishonest, and a dishonest man you can always trust to be dishonest. Honestly, it's the honest ones you want to watch out for
so much
because you
sense.
can never predict when they're going to do something incredibly
Listen to this reference here, not the crazy Final Fantasy one that I just made. You can listen to both, but that one's probably the better one. Okay.
That made me think that was exactly, I feel like it's the same vibe though. Like
for sure.
Like Fred and George have that kind of air of we are good, we are on it, not necessarily honest, but we are like on the up and up, we are good people in general, and then but they're like the ones that you got to watch because you never know when they're going to do something sly.
For sure.
Whereas Tom's just always, what to expect from him.
Do you think if Molly raised Tom instead of Tom being in an orphanage, would Tom have been more like Fred?
Probably.
Oh.
Fanfic.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Someone needs to write it.
I would
So
read that
good.
fanfic.
Delicious. I'm writing it right now at the same time as writing the other fanfic that I'm saying I'm writing. I'll send you guys the links when I'm done.
Yes, please. Because wow, what a good question, Ev.
Honestly, this is something that like as a Tom Riddle fangirl from way back when I was quite young and had time for fan fiction. It's not as though I look down on it. I just don't have time for it anymore. But there are definitely scenarios where people are like, what if Tom went to the Weasley family, blah, 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 when he was young? A, B, and C happens and he feels all fuzzy inside. And it's like, so nice to think about. It's so nice. I love a reform story is what I'm saying. But in order to have a reform story, you have to have someone feel guilt. And if they're not feeling guilt, there's no point. They have to recognize what they're doing is wrong. And the twins never do this. It makes me so upset because it could be a really great arc.
Maybe they do later on when they are adults, like older adults. They're like, oh, remember what we used to get up to? Well, not we. Well, just one of them, I guess.
An older adult.
Yikes.
Preferably while Fred is falling madly in love with Hermione.
That's so sweet that you ship them.
Yes.
I did end up reading that fic that you guys were talking about in the shipping Hermione and Fred. Specifically when you were doing the shipping Hermione, but the Hermione and Fred, I did end up reading it.
Is it like a fix-it fic where like he survived at the end?
No. It's written before Deathly Hallows.
No.
Oh. I love me a fix-it fic.
Check out our shipping episode. All the links are there.
It's so fun.
Hell yeah. Oh God, I never got to talk about my favorite ships. I'll leave that for a later episode.
Grace, do you ship Tom Fred?
How'd you nailed it in one? How did you know? Oh my goodness. Reading my mind.
Those snowballs, it's just the start of an enemies to lovers story.
It's the third fic. It's the third fic I'm writing with my third hand. I'm writing it with my toes.
Yeah. So back to the bet, right? So they make this insane bet, and then Bagman doesn't pay up, and Fred is like, "Oh, dude f***ed around. He's gonna find out."
Yeah.
Whereas George is like, "But don't put it in writing."
Yeah. He's got a scorched earth mentality, and I
like it.
I appreciate that. He's taken initiative. With his previous history, it makes me worried, but he's taking initiative.
I think in this instance, it's valid. If Bagman didn't want to, he makes this point that they're underage and therefore they shouldn't have been betting anyway. Well, my dude, you should have made that claim before taking their money.
Give them back their money.
Taking their bet. You took a child's money for a bet, and now you don't want to pay up when they won. Like,
horrendous. Yeah.
No. Good sir, you need to pay up. But I love that, like, we don't really know what they're up to the whole time. And that we just get these like moments of them heads down, working on things quietly, like in their room. There's not as many like bangs as they're used to, like all these little hints that like something is up, but we don't really know what's going on. And I think it's interesting because it's one of those, like, the whole time it was just really making me feel like please someone go and ask them what's like someone investigate this, because that's very untwins like to be doing, not causing mischief. I mean, they were, but in a more quiet manner. But I always was like, what are they up to? So it was very exciting for me to be like, you guys were, as 16-year-olds, like
blackmailing a politician.
Blackmailing a politician.
Oh my goodness.
Which is just
Shoot
so
for
good.
the stars, gentlemen.
Destroy the government.
Yeah.
Anarchy.
I really love that, like, in the earlier books, you always had like a fun little subplot with the Weasleys. They're like, what's going on with the Weasleys in Chamber of Secrets? They're like, what does Ginny have on Percy? They're like, Percy's getting some with a Ravenclaw. And now it's like, what are the twins up to? Oh, they're blackmailing politicians. So I always like these little side plots.
Insane. I love it.
They're
I love it so
fun.
much.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's justified, honestly. I'm not going to level some like, you aren't feeling empathy for Ludo Bagman. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't have taken their money to begin with. That's so crazy.
Right.
That's what greed will do.
Yeah.
But so once they do get the funds, and they work on Weasley Wizard Wheezes, I love their whole arc of Weasley Wizard Wheezes, because it's such a, like, it's so inspiring to see them following their dream and, like, see how they apply themselves when it's something they're, like, really passionate about.
It's also nice to see them do it and succeed. Because just as easily they could have failed.
Well, this is another weird thing. They succeeded by like tricking kids into taking their stuff.
They did not trick anyone.
I don't know that they were not tricking
them.
They paid them. They signed release forms and everything. It doesn't matter that they're younger. They're still like up for it.
Yeah, unlike Bagman, they honor their deals with youngsters. They pay them.
I feel like that's taking advantage, though. That's like, you're on a very thin line if you're going to start doing something like that. Because there's no possible way.
Narc!
Yes. Yes, I would. I'm the worst. I will say, I do like their shop is so entertaining and so incredible, but I cannot stand the fact that they sell love potions. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
It kills me. Every time I read it, I feel like it's like a dagger. I hate it so much. If I could yoink that out there, I would.
I am hoping that there are different types of love potions and they only sell the most benign ones.
Okay, but that didn't turn out to be benign, did it? Like, it happened. It ended up being like really bad.
Well, only because the mead was laced.
Well, yeah, the potion itself, was it clear
it was
how long
pure
it was going to last?
infatuation. They specify that it depends on the attractiveness of the girl and the weight of the boy in question.
Okay, no, it was the opposite, isn't it? The attractiveness of the boy and the weight of the girl in question.
No.
Was it?
Way.
Okay.
They wouldn't factor in the weight of the girl. That's not kosher.
And I hate to use some strong language, but this is skeezy as It is so bad. I can't stand it.
Yeah. No, like, as much as I will defend the Weasley twins for just about everything they do, this isn't a good look.
It says they work for up to 24 hours.
A lot can be done in 24 hours, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, depending on the weight of the boy in question and the attractiveness of the girl. But they're also like, I do think it's a little odd.
Am I still crazy now for thinking that they were thinking about that girl in a strange way? I feel like it's all coming together, guys.
I'll still argue with that one. But I think that based on what we see with Ron, it is very clear that he is over infatuated, and there's no way anybody's going to mistake that as true or love or anything like that. I feel like
in terms of affection, what is it? Oh my God. Consent is key. Consent is key. You can't give consent if this is in your system. I don't care how over the top it is. It's insane. It's insane to even have this on the market, especially for children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the 90s,
I guess it depends on how much
it was the 90s, and so understandings of consent were very different. But yes, this doesn't age well.
It doesn't.
Neither do the potions. But
yeah, I think the one thing that like could save them is how much they are involved in who is purchasing. Because they do seem to be very involved on the floor, and like they're not letting Ginny get stuff, and they're making Ron pay for things and whatnot. However, Malfoy ends up with the Peruvian instant darkness.
But that's
powder.
Ron's fault. That's all Ron's fault.
This is true.
Yes.
Well, in terms, security is a whole other matter, right? I guess, You can't actually like make sure that no one's ever going to swipe your stuff. Someone's going to come in and do something. You can't watch every single person. You're only 2 people. 3 technically because they hired someone. But
yeah, I mean it's not ideal that they have that in general. I guess I would want to know like why. Like why would they sell it? Like for what purpose? Would they think it was just they made it so outlandish that they would want to see silly boys acting this way? Or because that's where I could kind of see them being like, haha, wouldn't this be funny if we had this? But that's also not in their like joke section. It's in their section like specifically for witches.
The misogyny is a whole other issue. But
I don't think it's a whole nother issue because, again, 90s understandings of gender dynamics and all that. I think that they think if a boy is like ridiculously in love with a girl, then it's funny. Like, I feel like even in the 90s, if like it was a boy giving a girl the love potion, it would be like, no.
Yeah, that would be.
But back then, the understanding was like, if a girl gives it to a boy, then it's like, haha, funny, silly, but eek.
Yeah. Again, it does not necessarily age well, but at the time, I agree. Like, I think it was just funny, haha, oh, a boy's acting so silly in love because boys aren't supposed to act like that type of thing.
All right, listeners, Grace has to head out for a bit. We're hoping to get her back by the end of the episode. But if not, it has been a pleasure arguing about the twins with you.
It has been wonderful. Oh, my goodness. You guys are fantastic. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
always welcome.
Awesome.
And hope to hear from you again soon.
Absolutely.
So, carrying on with Weasley Wizard Wheezes, I suppose.
Yes.
Is there anything we needed to carry on?
Yeah, I think so, because we haven't talked about...
Oh, yeah, their products.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do you... I was curious what you guys think the most interesting or impressive thing is that they sell in their store.
Yeah. So when you asked the question, the first thing that came to my mind was the shield hats and cloaks and stuff. Like their whole line of products where, like, you know, they literally put a shield charm around you. Just because, to my mind, I feel like we don't hear of, like, clothing that can replicate spells. Like, not really. And it seems like such a huge, like, thing, like, that should be explored. Like, if you have clothing that can, like, you know, replicate the effects of spells, like, first of all, that can, like, help squibs be a part of the community, that can help inept wizards, you know, like the shield hats do. Like, I feel like this is a $1 zillion idea, and, like, the twins should lean into it.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most useful one, and yes, to inept wizards, I'm not sure it'll work for squibs. Although that depends on the model of squib you're using, whether they're no magic or they're just minimal levels of magic, if that makes sense.
I mean, no, because I think squibs are either or. Like, you can't be almost a squib.
Is that certain? Right.
Yeah, because they I think it's is it Neville during Chamber of Secrets who says everyone knows I'm almost a squib, and I think, but also we know that he's been using a hand-me-down wand, and once he gets his own, he's able to, he kind of like accelerates his abilities a little bit. So, yeah, I think there's not really an almost. I mean, you can be a Lockhart and really only have like one thing that you're good at, but
well, I meant
they
more
either
like,
have magic or they don't.
I meant more like, you know, the way if somebody's legally blind, that doesn't mean it's entirely black. There is a range.
They're completely
of
blind.
You're blind, but you might, you know, see some light or some shapes or something like that. So I always kind of pictured squibs as being a little bit like that. So they might have some like tiny trickle, but not enough to actually do anything with. So
I don't think so, because I think, don't they mention that the what Filch is enrolled in, that it's basically a scam?
Yeah. Like Joe said that like none of these characters can perform magic. Filch's quick spell course never worked. Like yeah. But it says they do
which is sad.
It's a shame,
but they do have access to certain magical objects and creatures that can help them.
True. Yeah.
So the shield hats could work on squibs.
Yeah, because it doesn't rely on their own innate ability. They just work in and of themselves. Yeah, for sure.
So it's like the way you might be able to vanish a stone, basically, in the same way you would, you know, use the, you know, not the shield hat. I was thinking of that vanishing hat they also had.
The headless hats.
Yeah, so it kind of just applies the spell to you. Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you guys? Most impressive product?
I'm just thinking they have so many things like, and I feel like when it comes to most interesting or most impressive, like their joke stuff isn't quite along the right line. I almost wonder if the pygmy puffs are the most impressive thing, because they had to specifically like breed a type of puffskein to do this. Like Hagrid must be very proud, although it doesn't have any life-threatening abilities. So I don't know how. No,
Hagrid wouldn't be interested.
But
wait, no. This is Fred atoning for the puffskein.
There you go.
Yes, he did feel guilty. And he was just like, yes, I'm going to make pygmy puffs that can take any amount of knocking about and they will live to tell the tale. I imagine the pygmy puffs are much hardier puffskeins.
I will make a puffskein even more adorable.
Yes, and indestructible.
Yeah, I just think the ability, I mean, that takes like a special knowledge to be able to, even in like real life, to be able to breed animals. Like, not that I'm for breeding unnecessarily or whatever, like, don't put that on me, but I do think that it's an impressive skill to be able to do properly, and it does seem like they are doing it well, because those pygmy puffs seem to be just thriving. I mean, and we get to see Arnold, who's just adorable. So
Arnold is the best.
Yeah. So I think maybe that, because we don't really see any of their like care of magical creatures ability or instinct or anything like that. It's all very like magical item based, their abilities. But
well, Sarah, that's because their 5th year is when Hagrid started teaching. So even if they were taking care of magical shippers, after a year of that, after a year of the flobberworms, did I take care of magical shippers?
Yes, you did.
You did.
Okay.
Free plug.
That's fair. That's fair.
We have to tag them now.
Care of magical creatures, not shippers. So yeah, after a year of Hagrid teaching that, and, you know, flobberworms, I feel like the twins were like, yeah, we're not going to take the newt in that subject. We're good. So
I do wonder what classes they were taking.
Pick me.
Do you have that list?
I do.
Yes,
I do.
please.
I mean,
I looked up so much stuff, but I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah. No, I looked this up last time I did a reread. And I have it written down somewhere.
I mean, because we know they're taking, like, basically their requirements are, like, I guess there's not really technically any requirements by 7th year, is there? It's just what you've passed your OWLs in order to be able to take. So what if you like, so they only got 3 OWLs each. So what, are they only taking 3 classes? That's not possible.
No, it just
gotta be
means
they are.
stuff.
Well, yeah, they could have taken more classes, but they haven't passed those exams or haven't reached the acceptable level. That's another option. So they might have taken, I don't know, 5 OWL exams, but only passed 3.
No, but I mean, like, so for in their 6th and 7th years.
Yeah, they're only in 3 classes apiece.
Oh, right. Yes. Sorry.
What? That's wild.
Let's see. Gosh, where do I have it written down? I'm sure I do. Newts.
We know they have charms. I think. Oh no, we know that they're taking charms in 5th year.
Oh,
because that's the class that's inspected by Umbridge.
No, so basically, they are both in charms. They are both in defense against dark arts, and then George is in transfiguration, whereas I think Fred is in herbology.
Okay.
Oh.
Let's see.
Yeah, because they definitely wouldn't be in potions because they wouldn't have gotten outstandings, so they wouldn't be in there.
Yeah, because so we both know they're in charms and defense. George talks about transfiguration in Goblet of Fire, page 238, where he like asked McGonagall about the Triwizard Task, and she told him to get on with transfiguring his raccoon. And then in Order of the Phoenix, page 227, they're off to sell some
extendable ears
before herbology. But since George is already at 3, I'm assuming that only Fred is actually in herbology and George is just like there to sell ears.
Accompanying him.
Yeah.
So that also explains why they have so much time to develop all their products.
So I just have a thought about what you just said. So if George is the one doing transfiguration, which, as we know, is a difficult subject, and a lot of their products actually have transfiguration elements in them, I wonder if the way their product development team, so to speak, works is that George is actually kind of the brains of the operation, and Fred is more like marketing. And I'm sure they both develop it, but George would have a more active role in actually creating the products, and Fred would have more active role in actually pushing them and, organizing their trials
depends.
and things like that. Because I think that would work for their, psychological profile that we've been trying to discuss.
Right.
So I don't think their products involve that much transfiguration, actually. I think it's more charms, which they're both really good at.
What about the canary creams?
And I think a lot of it is...
Yeah. Some of it is definitely transfiguration based. Hold on, let me pull up the list.
But also, like, because Fred is the herbology expert, I'm sure that a lot of their, products are, like, sourcing magical plants and stuff and then doing weird shit with them.
Right.
So I think it's actually good that they are in different subjects and their knowledge can complement each other.
Yeah, I like that. Wait, on a side note, you're HP Boy 13 everywhere, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I literally just found an article by you about their OWLs.
Yes, I wrote it for the lexicon.
Yep, exactly. That's so funny. I was looking up a few things while you were searching your notes, and then I pulled this one up and I was like, yeah, here's that, and then I'm like, HP Boy 13. Wait.
Yeah, it's me.
So that's funny.
Yeah, here, I'll drop a link to it.
You've confirmed yourself.
Yes, I love when I can vouch my own work.
It's good when you
That's
can
awesome.
reference yourself. It must feel good.
Right?
It feels very good.
Aww.
Like, I'm working on, my second book, and I keep being like, per me in the Dumbledore book.
That's
like,
fantastic.
go read that.
Go read that. That's your homework before you read my next one.
Yep.
I love it. I think some of the other things that they sell are just fascinating. Like, obviously, they're very they started when they were in school. So what do kids who only have 3 classes and don't really like learning except for when it benefits them going to do? Well, they're going to, create the skiving snack boxes. And I love the patented daydream charm.
That's the one I was going to say
Yes.
was my favorite one, because I would love one of those.
I think that's so interesting.
I wonder if the patented daydream charms are like a much more popular item now, because now that we all have smartphones, like if you have 3 minutes and you're waiting for a bus, you're not just going to stand there and let your mind wander. You're going to look at your smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like all the Muggleborns coming to Weasley Wizards are going to be like, daydream charms, whoa, and be so into them.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Kids these days and their smartphones and their loud music.
I also love
grumble.
that they're not for sale for wizards under 16, which definitely falls into that love potion vibe. I mean, they are in the Wonder Witch section, but I think that's, I'm like, what are you putting in there, boys? Also, the 10-second pimple vanisher, please and thank you.
Oh my god.
That's
seriously,
actually very useful.
can we buy that at Weasley Wizard Wheezes in the theme parks?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Please. And then there's other things that they just list, but we don't actually really know what they do. And I am so curious. Like a flirting fancy. What is it? What does it do? I don't know.
Did you say flirting?
So I guess
not
they have
floating?
fainting
Aren't they
fancies.
fainting?
They have fainting
fainting, sorry.
fancies, but then they also created like a flirting fancy that went into their like Wonder Witch line as well.
Did they?
I don't remember that.
How do I have no memory of this?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those ones where like kind of all those after the fact visiting the store, they've like collected it all together. But I'm just like reading this list of items that
I'm gonna ask for
put
sources
in a perfume or other bottled product. But let me see here.
So I'm picturing a flirting fancy as like one of those little cakes, like fondant fancy, but except when you eat it, you suddenly become very good at flirting. Just for like 15 minutes.
That would be so funny. That would be great. I like this headcanon of that. Because it can't possibly be like an actual love potion because that's a separate product. So it's got to be something else.
No, because
Apparently,
it sounds like it's something you would take yourself.
Sarah, it's a movieism.
It's a movieism only.
I just looked it up. The only source on the internet is the Harry Potter wiki, which cites the films. So obviously we can ignore it.
Okay, fair
Yeah,
enough.
that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
I still
Right, I was like, between Ev and me, like, we would have remembered that.
Yeah, I'm still following Ev's idea of what it is, though. I like this.
Touche.
Also, have you ever seen a fondant fancy? They're very pretty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're sickeningly sweet, but very beautiful. I kind of want one now because I'm hungry. But I cannot flirt to save my life, so I don't think I would want one.
I have the opposite problem. I flirt whenever I, like, talk to somebody, and then it's this situation. It's like, no, that wasn't to come on. I was just chatting.
Same.
Like,
I'm just very chatty.
It's like, I'm just being friendly. I actually didn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's also why I can never tell when someone's flirting with me, because I was like, but, I mean,
They're just
that's how I
acting
chat
normal.
with someone. I'm like, yeah.
So maybe we need something from Fred and George's.
Yep. Oh, I mean, I would cheerfully take most of their product line.
Yeah, this is true. I like the I think it's really funny the edible dark marks. They'll make anyone sick. Like,
That's
Yes.
it makes me think of like the what is it, like the cockroach clusters from
I know, which gross.
from honeydukes and stuff, which I get that people eat bugs and stuff, but no thank you.
No.
Now I'm just reading all the things that they have. But I do like, I think the skiving snack boxes that's a very like child in school dream, right? Like,
Oh, yes.
like, especially if you weren't like a Hermione who totally loved everything about every class ever, except for divination. But like, if you weren't a person who was like totally into everything and you're like, oh gosh, I wish I had, like, I was, even at like, I was a pretty good student, but like, there were times that I would be sitting there, I'd be like, I wish I was developing a fever right now, or like suddenly threw up so that I could just go home. Like, I'm just done with today. Like, I wish there was a reason that I would go home, but unfortunately I was a fairly healthy
but did you
child.
never fake it?
I was not that type of a person. I was too goody two shoes most of the time that I wouldn't really fake it. There was a handful of occasions where like maybe I was feeling a little bit queasy and I'd like make it into a bigger thing, but I'd never like make it up out of nowhere.
Oh, I 100% did.
But I would have loved these because I could have just been like, yeah, today is not my day. And then
Yeah. Pro tip is when you're faking ill, you always want to blame your stomach because first of all, there's no proof. Second of all, nobody wants to be wrong.
Right.
Like, if they're like, oh, you have a fever and we don't believe you, then, like, you'll just be with a fever.
Right.
If you have a stomach bug and we don't believe you, that's unpleasant for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you might have
pro tip.
appendicitis or something, and nobody wants to be the person who prevented you from not dying.
Yeah. Yeah, I got this advice from one of my friends like a couple of years ago. She's like, if you ever want to leave work, always say it's tummy issues because no one wants more information.
Yep.
Which is very, very valid.
Yeah. But also for the Weasley's products, like, I think the one that I would want most is the extendable ears. Because, I mean, that'd be so useful.
Very useful. I'm a very nosy person.
Like, I'm such a busybody. I would love it.
If you had a pair of extendable ears, what would you use them for first?
I would just, like, go to a coffee shop and just sit there and listen to everybody. I don't know. Probably. I'm such a homebody, too, though. It's like, I just am in my house most of the time. So I don't have, like, too many circumstances where I'd, like, want to listen in on something else. But, yeah, I would just, like, go in public somewhere and just listen to various conversations around me, I think.
Yeah.
What about you, Irvin?
I don't know. I'd probably use it at work to, like, you know, hear all the gossip, hear what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Because, like,
I can't imagine you not already having all the gossip, Irvin.
No, I'm, like, the last to know things. No one tells me anything.
What?
I know. So, I mean, I would need a lot of translation services. Like, I wonder if they can build in translation into the extendable ears, because so many of my coworkers speak French. But yeah,
that would be so interesting, though. Okay, I'm loving this idea.
I mean, first of all, it would be so useful just to know when they intend to fire me, so I can, like, plan my vacations and stuff.
I can plan my day.
Right? Because, like, you know, it's the uncertainty of the, like, you know, like, will I be employed this summer? Who knows?
Oh no. That's no fun.
It's fine. We had a rough winter, but things are mellowing out.
That's good.
But right, back to the Weasley twins. So can we talk about the best use of their products, which is Revolution against Umbridge?
Hell yeah.
It is my favorite part of Order of the Phoenix.
Absolutely.
Like, I love it so much just because it's so, like, uplifting. Like, you've been so beaten down by that point in Order of the Phoenix, where just, like, Umbridge keeps winning and things keep getting worse, and then it's just like, viva la revolution.
Yes, I so love it. I think between, like, releasing the wildfire whiz bangs in the corridors, and I love the what's the quote? She's like, they're talking about how, you know, she's trying to maintain it and can't possibly get rid of them and all these things. And he's like, I really hope she tries to vanish them next. They multiply by 10 every time you try. And I just love that they, like, built in these little, like, screw yous into just, like, wreaking havoc on her. And I think one of the things that I love absolutely the most is how much respect they get from Flitwick and Peeves.
Yes.
Because Flitwick being like, I could have, you know, vanished. I could have gotten rid of them, but I wasn't sure if I had the authority.
The authority.
And, like, Flitwick just totally leaving the little cordoned off section of the portable swamp for them, like, as a tribute. And then I love the quote, give her hell from us, Peeves. And then Peeves, who had never taken direction from anyone else, springs to a
salute.
Exactly.
Yes.
I just think it's so wonderful because yeah, like, when you think about Hogwarts and kind of the mischief that goes on, the other culprit is usually Peeves, and you see them acting independently almost all the time. But now it's like they're kind of coming together as one, and Peeves, master of mischief himself, like, respecting the hustle of Fred and George and their shenanigans. That made me, I like cheered out loud reading it.
Oh, 100%. Although I have to say, I think the other line I loved is when Hermione's like, why don't we have a night off? Mm-hmm. And Ron's like, are you feeling all right? Now you mention it, do you know, I think I'm feeling a bit rebellious.
I love that so much.
Also, am I the only one who reads that with the exact intonation of Elphaba from Wicked? For the first time, I feel wicked.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Yes, it's so good. And then, like, even after they leave, like, they have this lasting impact where, you know, Peeves is unscrewing things, and McGonagall's like, it unscrews the other way. And then people are saying, some days I just feel like jumping on my broom and leaving this place, or one more lesson like that and I might just do a Weasley. Like, I love that their reputation and lives on. It's
right.
so
they are
good.
Hogwarts legends.
Exactly. The legend remains.
Yeah. Like, can you picture it in like 20 years when like a whole new generation of students is walking down the corridor and there's this roped off bit of swamp,
Yes.
and the first years are like, what on earth is that? And they're like, well, kid, you had to be there. But once upon a time, there were these twins.
I feel like they put up a little sign there.
Love it.
'Cause
I hope there's a plaque. I really hope there's a plaque.
some poor student will have to polish it from time to time when they're in detention.
Yes!
I love it. Yeah, because Flitwick like specifically mentions that like it's a good bit of magic, so I can see him doing that.
Yeah. Which, like, we hear that a lot from various characters that, like, you know, like, oh, that's a good bit of magic. That's an impressive bit of magic. Like, the twins are really good at magic.
Yeah. Even Hermione, you know, who's like, don't use the skiving snack boxes. Don't do this. I'll go to your mother. Like, she even, when she walks into their store, like, is like, actually, these are pretty impressive.
Yeah.
You know, that makes me think of you know, in Hogwarts Legacy, when you walk around Hogwarts and you see various interesting statues and artifacts of interest under glass with the little plaques and things, I feel like that's a sort of place the swamp would occupy. There'll just be this corner of Hogwarts of interest, of historical interest.
Yeah.
In 20 years' time, people would be like, oh, and this is where famous Fred and George Weasley made a portable swamp.
Yes. Oh, guys, do you think they have a memorial there every May 4th? Or May 3rd, 2nd. Or, you know, whatever the day was.
The day
May
is.
2nd.
Yeah.
May 2nd.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
I like to think, that people will just leave, like, prank items there every May 2nd as tribute to Fred.
I love that. Or what I can see is every May 2nd, the professors just start to dread because everybody's got their has been holding on to their skiving snack boxes, and just they all use it on May 2nd every year. And then classes are basically canceled because there's no students.
No, I think it would be part of Hogwarts tradition, especially while McGonagall was headmistress, was just every year on the day you set off Weasley wildfire whiz-bangs. They'll just have an annual fireworks show.
Yes.
Like, completely part of, like, the Hogwarts above board calendar. Oh, now I'm in my feelings.
I love that so much. I'm looking to see this specific quote about the swamp, and I had it bookmarked and now I completely lost it.
Oh yeah, Flitwick's got rid of Fred and George's swamp. He did it in about 3 seconds, but he left a tiny patch under the window and he's roped it off. Why? Said Hermione. Oh, he just says it was a really good bit of magic. I think he left it as a monument to Fred and George, said Ron.
Yeah. I definitely can imagine.
He's a good teacher.
Yeah. He's so well, and he's one of the ones who's had them the whole time. So he knows how good they are.
That's true.
And I also love that basically everything that they do, like I have this slight headcanon now that he has kind of taught them half of this stuff, like on purpose, because he knows how to get rid of all this stuff. Like he does it immediately. He gets rid of the swamp right away. He gets rid of the fireworks right away. Like he can get rid of all this stuff. So it's almost like maybe he like egged them on and like kind of told them how to go about it. And then so that's why he knows how to like immediately counter charm
He's
everything.
an excellent wizard, though. So he might just be able to see how it's made.
But I could also see him, like, you know, being in class and being like, yeah, and he, like, overhears them being like, how do we make a swamp? And he's like, you know, if anyone wanted to make a portable swamp, they would just have to do X, Y, Z. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, I can definitely see him, like, slyly helping them.
Do you imagine Fred and George did a Tom Riddle on Flitwick, and they're like, how would one possibly theoretically make a swamp? And Flitwick would be like, well, obviously this is strictly theoretical, but...
I know, it's like the, like, you know, wholesome version of Tom Riddle and Slughorn and the Horcruxes.
Right, exactly.
They're like, Professor, I was wondering, what could you tell me about portable swamps?
What do you think Flitwick's favorite candy is?
Sugar quills.
Yeah, because he gives Harry some, what was it, sugar mice or something?
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, so moving on past Flitwick, what about McGonagall? Because I imagine McGonagall really likes the Weasley twins. And, like, for all the grief they give her, I think she is immensely amused by them.
I think so, too. I think she finds them entertaining, but also appreciates that they do work hard. I'm sure them being good Quidditch players doesn't tarnish her view of them.
I think that probably makes her a lot more forgiving to the rest of their antics.
Yeah. I think it's kind of what you see with, like, letting athletes kind of have lower grades in some instances, but I think with her, she wouldn't do it if she knew that they weren't, like, up for the magic of it as well, like the actual, like, class part, because she is very strict about, like, making sure that people are actually learning at Hogwarts. So I think that, like, while she does give them grace, some of the shenanigans that they get up to, I mean, she's not shy about giving them detentions, but she'll make sure that the detention isn't at the same time as Quidditch practice. And she's very upset when they're kicked off of the team. And so I think, like, while she does, does she ever actually punish them for any of the stuff that they do? I can't think of a time that she specifically gives them a detention or anything, or even takes points or
we don't really see them being punished, aside from Umbridge.
Well, they talk about being in detention a handful of times, and they're caught by Filch sometimes in the earlier books.
Yeah. Pre-Marauder's Map.
Yeah,
Which, like, the fact that they gave up the Marauder's Map in their 5th year when they had, like, 2 more years, like, that's huge.
Yeah, and their whole, like, we know it all by heart. I'm like, but you don't know where everybody is all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's kind of a little odd.
That was 100% to just get Harry to take it.
For sure. Yeah.
There was this great bit that Jo said in her interview with Emerson and Melissa in 2005 about how they got the Marauder's Map working. Where, like, Melissa asked, like, how did they figure out how to work the map? And Jo says, well, this is how I explained it to myself at the time, and this does sound glib. Don't you think it would be quite a Fred and George's thing to say in jest and then see this thing transform? Like, can't you just see them?
Right.
And Emerson is like, but the exact combination? Is that just a lot of luck or Felix Felicis? And Jo is like, oh, or the map helped.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right, and Melissa's like, yeah, you can see them sort of answering and joking with each other. And Jo cuts her off. And the map flickering into life here and there when they got closer and closer. And finally they hit upon the exact right word combination and it just erupts.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, that makes all the sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me as well, because that we hear the map respond to Snape. So it could have responded to them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it definitely would have, like, you know, responded to the twins because they are portrayed as the heirs apparent to the Marauders. Like,
True.
Like, throughout the series from everyone. Like, in Prisoner of Azkaban, when they're like, oh, gosh, James and Sirius were such troublemakers, and Hagrid's like, oh, the Weasley twins could give them a run for their money.
Right.
And then in Order of the Phoenix, when Harry's like, oh, but like, my dad was a bully. Like, well, it was kind of like Fred and George, but no, they wouldn't do that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I like that a lot.
And I feel like most of the comparisons sort of portrayed the twins as like a gentler version of the Marauders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specifically with the Snape of it all.
Well,
because they wouldn't specifically target one person or, I mean, because let's be real, like the Marauders bullied Snape. Like,
yeah,
that is what it is. And so like, but Fred and George don't do that. In fact, it's almost the opposite. They only bully the bullies, not people who are, I guess, quote, undeserving of such treatment. It's almost always in retaliation, in my opinion. Yeah.
And most of their pranks are for, like, you know, their friends' consumption. Like, you know, we see a lot of them at, like, Gryffindor parties where, like, you know, Neville's turning into a canary. And then it's very much like, you know, they're laughing with their, like, victim rather than at him.
Yeah, I agree. And they're the first to, like, do things themselves and to like kind of put themselves on the line as well, instead of just directly being like, you will try this thing and you will like you will tell us what it's like. It's more like a communal, jovial, hey, we did it, we know what it's we know how funny it is, like, share this with us situation. Which I like. Me too. And I think that makes them a little bit more forgivable because I do remember, like, you know, Marauder side tangent, reading that with how they treat Snape, like, that was hard to read because you're told for most of 5 books, like, that James was great and Lily was great, and obviously that doesn't change for Lily, but that Lily was great. And then, you know, 3, you meet Lupin and Sirius and Pettigrew, and you're like, well, Pettigrew wasn't great, but he also wasn't the instigator of these things. It was really like James and Sirius, and you're like, but I thought that these were good people, and then you're reading this like horrible thing. And so it's like, it's hard to read that about somebody that you're like supposed to feel good feelings about, I guess. And so, yeah, I think that that's right, what you were saying, that Fred and George are the more gentle version, because you don't read something outright being like, it's someone's literal worst memory, although maybe Montague feels that way, but yeah. but that also wasn't intentional.
Yeah, it wasn't like
the same.
It wasn't a sustained campaign of like targeting Montague.
And it wasn't targeting Montague. They didn't do this in front of everybody specifically to embarrass him. Yeah. That's the difference for sure.
Do we want to talk about their relationships with other characters?
Let's do it.
Or is there anything else we wanted to cover? Because we've been all over the place.
Yeah, I'm kind of slightly lost the
thread.
Lost the thread where we are in the dock, or are we have we abandoned it at this point?
I think just go down to relationships, because I think we've really discussed kind of anything above there, here and there.
Yeah.
Besides the George ending, we haven't really talked about that, I suppose. I don't know.
Oh yeah, wait. Let's hit that up, because you know, George's ear isn't here anymore.
Yeah, because we talked earlier in this episode about, you know, Fred's death and what happens and the trauma of it all, but we really didn't kind of go into George. I mean, he's gone through some rough stuff as well, especially with his ear. And I love that he, you know, immediately lightens and kind of calms Fred with his joke. Saint, like, I'm holy. holy Fred, you get it. Like, I just think it's so perfect. And
Fred's immediate rejoinder
exactly
that with the whole wide world of ear-related humor.
Yes. I think it's so funny, but it's also such a nice, like, moment for them to have together, which is really like, you have George calming Fred, even though George is the one who's in a dire situation. It really just kind of like emphasizes their role to each other.
Yeah. Well, and in general, because George is much more sort of like the
emotionally intelligent,
like the nurturing one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, and so I think that it does make it, maybe going back to what JK was saying about how she thought people would anticipate George dying instead of Fred, that maybe it makes the impact of George being the one to have to carry on more upsetting, because he's the one who would probably take it harder and really feel the loss more. Not that Fred wouldn't, but I just think that they would internalize it in a very different way. So it makes me think, like, looking at what happens with George following, how he continues to run the shop. He ends up marrying Angelina. Ron comes and works at the shop with him. It's almost like he's consistently searching for someone to fill Fred's shoes, which just makes me so sad. And I don't know, and I feel like everybody has their own opinion about Ron working at the shop and if that makes sense or not, and we can talk about that. But I feel like I just want to touch on the Angelina part, because I kind of went back and forth on this one. Like, obviously, they both have known Angelina for a long time. You know, they both played Quidditch. You know, Angelina went to the Yule Ball with Fred, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they had some significant relationship or anything. But it does almost seem like both George and Angelina needed someone who understood like the role of Fred and understood what losing him means. And so that's like, I can see that being what draws them together, is that they're maybe two of the people who, you know, obviously outside of the rest of the Weasley family, but like would really feel his loss the most and would gravitate towards each other. Like, I almost feel like, you know, they go to some therapy afterwards and meet, and they like both are talking about it, and that's how they kind of like come together, because they like understand each other. I just think I don't know. I think that it could be easily explained, but it does seem a little odd, I guess, at first look. What do you guys think?
I think it seems odd if you don't give it too much thought, which you did, mm-hmm. and I completely agree with you, that it's not like Angelina is replacing Fred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they were on the Quidditch team together for a number of years. Mm-hmm. So she knows very well which one is which, you know?
Right.
She knows them both. She got to know them
which
both.
one is the
it's
good Quidditch player?
She's going, oh, I've lost one twin. I guess the other one would do, because that would be weird.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's not like that at all. She knows that they're different people. But like you said, you know, they understand the loss in a way other people might not understand, and mm-hmm. I can see them. I can see Angelina and George reconnecting after the war and having a relationship that's entirely their own, and not a mm-hmm. Fred replacement.
Yeah. So I guess my perspective on it is like, I'm not ruling out your explanations. I was like, yeah, like, you know what? They could have a completely healthy, normal, like, working relationship, like, that's, you know, A+, 5 stars, like, no notes. But I feel like we need that story. I feel like sort of without a story explaining how it all went down, the default assumption is that it's not kosher. And that, like, she's essentially trying to replace one twin with the other.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is sort of one of those instances where, like, I really wish Joe would, like, chime in on Pottermore or something and, like, get at least some semblance of that story to, like, make it less icky.
Yeah.
Do you find it icky, Irvin?
Also, like...
I mean, sorry, not icky, just unhealthy.
Okay.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I think there was... I could have sworn that I read a line that just said that they like kind of went their separate ways and met again later and grew close. But I can't find, I thought I had it in front of me, but I can't quite find that source. So maybe I am incorrect on that one. Or maybe that was my wishful thinking.
I only think it can be icky if you don't know that they've spent so much time together, the three of them, over the years.
Yeah, I guess we don't know too much about their friendship fully outside of Quidditch, which could be, I guess, the key that we're missing here. Because potentially, like, because we don't know who, the only time that we really see any of them in any sort of romantically construed situation is just the Yule Ball. And so I guess probably where most people's like feeling of ickiness would come from is like if they assumed that he asked Angelina and then they continued to date afterwards, but that's not like specified, I suppose. Which, I mean, neither is who George goes to the Yule Ball with either. So we don't know too much about their general romantic history, I suppose. The only ones that we really have information on that is just that who Bill ends up marrying, that Percy dated Penelope Clearwater, and then Ron and Ginny, obviously. But we don't get too much of like a relationship backstory on the twins.
Yeah.
If there is any. Which I feel like, I don't know, maybe I've read too much fan fiction, but I feel like Fred and George like have to have romantic exploits.
Yeah.
Like they just don't seem the type to not be interested in girls in a way that would make them like pursue dates and some sort of relationships and whatnot.
Well, also, like, the confidence with which Fred asks out Angelina,
also
like, that's not the first time he's asked out a girl.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So, back to George's sort of future with Ron, where, like, you know, Ron is working in Weasley Wizard Wheezes. Mm-hmm. I really kind of wonder how their relationship changes. Like Ron and George's, because I feel like Ron, sort of like circa Half-Blood Prince, would not want to work for the twins.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
You know, he idolizes them and respects them in a lot of ways, but I think he would not want to place himself like under them, with like them being his bosses. Mm-hmm. So like the fact that he did, I was like, you know, hopefully that like they both grew more mature and like, you know, sort of once they moved out and Ron wasn't like living with the constant, you know, teasing, their relationship probably got better. But also like, and this is awful to say, but like their relationship might be better in Fred's absence.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes, I think I agree with that, especially given some of the information in that essay about differences between Fred and George and how Fred is mostly the instigator of the pranks and George is mostly the kind of a more thoughtful one, making sure people are okay. So I'd say without Fred as an instigator, George and Ron might have a nicer relationship. It's hard to know what George is going to be like several years after the death of his brother, because I'm sure he's never quite the same as he was.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it working out okay. And generally, I think it makes sense for Ron to end up in the family business, because as much as Ron was a companion to Harry in his adventures, and as much as he thinks he wants to be an Auror, because, you know, he gets upset when fake Moody doesn't say he has makings of an Auror, I think Ron wants to be more than he is. But at some point, I think he realizes that really he would enjoy the quiet life and a more stable job at the shop. And another headcanon I have is that maybe he takes the job at the shop to have regular hours so he can be a more present father to Rose and Hugo while Hermione's boss witching her way to Minister of Magic. And Ron has more time to be a dad.
Aww.
Yeah, I like that. I think you kind of nailed it. It does make sense for Ron to end up joining in kind of all of those ways. And I just feel like the whole Auror path was never really for him anyway. I honestly don't really see it for Harry either, but that's beside the point. So I do like that that's not his like end game, you know, and that he really, and I think that Ron, as much as he like, you know, wants to hate on his family, or not hate on them, but like resent being one of so many and being looked over and everything, I think given the chance to be there for his sibling, he's going to take it every time. And so I think, you know, if George kind of came to him hat in hand and was like, I really need help, I can't do this alone, Ron would drop everything to be there for him.
I don't think George would do that. I think it'll be kind of more implied.
No, but I think
Ron
he would pick up on it.
Show up.
Yeah, I think it would be more like George talking about the difficulty that he may or may not be having, and then Ron being like, hey, I can't do this mission and I have to join you. Like he'd come up with some sort of excuse that like didn't call out George's struggle, but then still ended up with both of them there. Which is kind of sweet. And I feel like how a lot of brothers act.
Yeah.
It'll all be very 90s manly, where they skirt around not talking about their feelings, but really...
Exactly.
But really they have lots of feelings. They just sort of grunt and push each other.
So many feelings. So, on the topic of Ron's relationship with the twins, sort of, you know, during the period we're reading in the books, it's hard to excuse, like, the way they treat him, because, yeah, with Percy, I always felt that, like, since he's older, it's kind of punching up when they tease him. Yeah. So it's not as bad. With Ron, they're older and there's two of them, and it very much feels like punching down. Yeah. So, yeah, I give them a lot more grief for the way they treat Ron than for the way they treat Percy. That said, he doesn't make it easy to like him. He really doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think I agree about the punching... was it up or down, the directions, with regards to Percy, because Percy is older, but twins are a lot smarter. They're more talented. They're more likable. They're creative. They're good at sport. Percy does well in school, but mostly just from sitting down and studying for a long time, not because he has any natural ability. So he doesn't really have anything. Everybody else in the family, apart from Ron actually, has something that they have a natural aptitude in, and Percy doesn't. So I think he's quite insecure.
I would argue that I think that he is quite insecure, but I would give Percy, he has a natural aptitude just for kind of like like governmental thought. Like that's why he goes to the ministries. I feel like
studying.
Well, I mean, but someone's got to do it. Like he has the natural aptitude for the bureaucracy, which might not be a very respected may not be a very respected thing for his family and for the people that we're viewing the story from. But
if you need a guy to write a report on cauldron bottoms, he's your man.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, like someone's got to do it, right? And he knows what he's good at and he leans into that. And that's why he joins the ministry and tries to work his way up and everything. And so I think that's like, you have to give him that credit. Like, it's not that he's inept. It's that he has a strong affinity for something that is not respected in his family necessarily, or in the lens that we are viewing things, because we tend to, in this world, respect the people who are more adventurous or creative or things like that. Because even Arthur, who works in the ministry, we like him because he's quirky. We like him because he's just a very jovial person. But people have to be the bureaucracy of it all. Yeah. And that's Percy's role, like it or not. And so I think he does have that ability and that intelligence. It's more just he's using it in a way that we as the viewer through this lens don't appreciate. Yeah, honestly, if it weren't for Percy, the product would be flooded with flimsy, shallow-bottomed products that seriously endanger people.
Well, anyway, what I was trying to say is that I think twins are punching down both Percy and Ron. So I think it's actually worse than what Irvin says. But
so Grace and I have argued about this for years. Are they punching up or punching down for Percy? And for all of his disadvantages, I still feel the fact that he is older and that he excels in an academic setting and does well with his teachers and everything. Like, even if it's not punching up, I can't see it as punching down towards him. Yeah. With Ron, I do feel like a lot of it is it is very much kind of what we were discussing earlier of he is it's that classic, they are the classic sibling relationship of teasing the younger sibling. They go on about how Ron's going to have to wrestle a troll to get sorted and things like that. It's very much just that. I don't know, that whole relationship is very much a classic. When you think of a TV show with an older brother and a younger brother, I feel like that's very much what this is. If you think sitcom family relationship. I
want a Weasley sitcom.
And so that would be amazing.
I would watch that.
Would watch
great.
10 out of 10.
Magical family sitcom. It's like Modern Family, but magical family instead.
Yes. I love it. But yeah, that's just, anyway, that's the vibe that it always gave me. So I never thought it anything in particular too horrifying. But I guess everybody's got their own kind of outlook on the situation. Well, you're also the only one on the panel with brothers, so. True. Very, very true. Yeah. And I think that it's kind of one of those little rite of passage things, because who knows, Bill and Charlie probably took the mickey out of Fred and George when they were still at home. Oh, 100%. And so they just feel like it's their job to pass it along. They're just moving it on down the line. And I think maybe because it's kind of a 2-on-1 situation, it comes across maybe a little bit more of a struggle to give them some exceptions, but it kind of happens. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's great, but I'm saying I get it. I understand it and I see it in real life. Not that that's like a good thing.
And so back to Ron, I feel like the microcosm of their relationship is when they visit Weasley Wizard Wheezes in Half-Blood Prince. And like, I swear to God, Ron is like, grabs all the merch, and then he is outraged that he doesn't get all of this merch for free. Like,
but I'm your brother.
In the first, 4 months that the twins have been running this business, they're not millionaires yet.
Right.
And, I mean, first of all, I think the twins were right to make him pay for it, because screw that. But also, I love the contrast. They're like, Harry, take whatever you want. We love you. You're our bro. You're our investor. It's all on the house for you. Ron, we'll knock off a knut for you. It's like, that right there, in a nutshell, is their attitude towards Harry and Ron.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think, I mean, obviously, giving them, 1,000 galleons, that doesn't hurt.
Well, yeah.
So, they're also being like, we weren't totally game for taking this money to begin with, so we can at least pay you back in trinkets over time.
Yeah. Well, and same with Hermione, right? Is when they see the patent daydream charms, and Hermione's like, that's extraordinary magic. And Fred's like, for that, Hermione, you can have one for free. So it's like, yes, Hermione gets a free daydream charm. Harry gets whatever the hell he wants. Ron gets to save a knut.
Right. But I think that also is like, Ron didn't come in and be like, hey guys, this is really cool. He just was like, I'm your brother and I deserve to have these things.
Yep.
It's the sense of entitlement.
The audacity.
Yeah, the nerve, the gall. I honestly, I feel like part of the reason the twins like Harry so much is because of how different he is from Ron. I mean, the contrast, especially considering the twins and their points of view and what they value, it's night and day. Because Harry is very much a pull himself up by his bootstraps, plucky, never say die, kind of guy. And Ron is a whiner.
Yeah, that's true. And also yeah, I think they see kind of a little bit of that rebellious spirit in Harry more than in Ron.
Oh yeah.
And so
they say, right? At least you've got your priorities straight.
Right. So, I think they tend to appreciate people more when they can see themselves in those people. So, that goes with Harry or Ginny or, that's why they're such good friends with Lee. So I think that that's a big,
everyone but Ron.
Well, but Ron, but Percy, but
yeah,
Hermione half the time. But the same thing, if it doesn't matter what they do to Ron, they're always going to have his back anyway.
Oh yeah,
and that's what I appreciate about their relationship is no matter how mean or teasing they are, they're still going to be ride or die for him no matter what. And so that's one thing that I will always appreciate about them, and why I will always give them the benefit of the doubt is that when push comes to shove, they do know what's right. They may toe the line and they may bend rules here and there, and moral compasses might be a little askew, but they know when it's time to step up for family or the people that they care about or what matters.
Well, and the way they adopt family, right?
Yeah.
The way they adopt Harry immediately.
Right.
I feel like it could have taken them a minute, but literally they go full Molly Weasley where within 5 minutes of knowing Harry, they're like, you're our brother now. We'll ride or die for you. it, let's rescue you in the middle of the night from the Dursleys. Like, we're on our way, Harry.
Yeah.
Getting to use a flying car is just a bonus.
Yeah. But they send him a toilet seed and they cheer him up in Chamber of Secrets with the rumors and the monster and everything. Like, they really have Harry's back.
I think that is hilarious. They're the whole where did it go? Make way for the heir of Slytherin. Seriously evil wizard coming through. Yeah, Harry's in a hurry. He's nipping off to the Chamber of Secrets for a cup of tea with his fanged servant. So funny. Also, side note, nobody knew what the monster was at this point. George nailed it.
Yes.
Is he also a seer like Ron?
Maybe.
I mean, who could have guessed that the monster would have fangs?
There's only certain
very
monsters
unlikely.
that have fangs. Just saying.
Loads of them, probably.
Yeah. But also, like, it shows how well they know Harry by that point.
Right.
Because, like, he does really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he finds it very cheerful that they think it's ridiculous.
Right. It's like everybody else is like glowering at him in the hallways and they're just like, let's go.
Yeah, time for a cup of tea with the Fanged Servant.
Yes. And the other person that they really like kind of adopt into their family is Hermione, which is cute because she kind of is their like mom away from mom. A lot of the time, because she's such a stickler for the rules and she's always trying to kind of keep them on the straight and narrow. But they totally take it in stride. They love to like tease her about breaking rules and, blatantly breaking them in front of her and like, what are you going to do about it? And I just think it's very sweet that they kind of take her too, and that the two people that they adopt so quickly and so fiercely end up being part of the family as well. Which I think is just really sweet because I don't know. I almost wonder like if they kind of have an idea about the Ron of it all with Hermione. Like they do seem sort of fairly perceptive to people's feelings towards one another. And so I do almost wonder if they kind of got the sense that Ron was into Hermione, maybe even before Ron knew it himself.
Oh,
and 100%. Definitely before Harry knew it.
Again, Ron and Hermione, but Ron, they are not subtle.
No.
Like, if Harry noticed, the Weasley twins noticed.
But like years before.
Right, well, I mean, even Goblet of Fire, where Ron and Hermione are having these epic rows in the middle of the Gryffindor common room, I feel like the twins figured it out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, they're already like so protective of her even before that, like with the whole, with the Mudblood comments by Draco, and they're like ready to jump to her defense like immediately. And, I think that it's really sweet that they're so willing to pull people into their sphere so quickly. Yeah.
See, they've gotten their acceptance of muggles from their dad and their way of adopting people from their mom. Aww. They're the best of their parents. Aww. And Grace isn't here to refute it.
Ha.
She'll be listening to this episode later and go, no.
Right, I just picture Grace like gnashing her teeth. She's like, they're so wrong. Yeah. So one more relationship I want to talk about is Ginny. Because like they are really close, like the twins and Ginny. And what I noticed is that the Weasley kids, they sort of seem to go in alternating sets where like you have the like really tall and lanky like prefect / head boy like collective where it's like Bill, Percy, and Ron, and they all seem a bit more grounded and they all like have their own relationships that are fairly close. And then on the other side, you have the sort of like short and stocky, like wild child set of Weasleys where they excel at Quidditch and they're all like a little bit, like out there. And so, I feel like we can infer from this that the twins probably have a really good relationship with Charlie because, again, there's the whole Quidditch aspect. But also, like, it shows why they're so close to Ginny.
Yeah.
And, like, especially once Ginny, like, really comes into her own in, like, Order of the Phoenix, the twins are just like, yes, like, you can hang with us, you're cool.
Yeah, I love it. I've said it before, and I've said it before again, and I will say it again. She's the third twin.
Yep.
She's the little brother they never had.
Yeah.
Aw.
Sorry,
No,
guys.
Harry's the little brother they never had.
But
Everyone
I think,
but Ron.
yeah, I think she's like the best thing they could have asked for in a sister. Like,
Yep.
because when you think about like a typical brother versus sister, you think more about the differences rather than the similarities. And I think that especially as she gets older, but even from the beginning, like they're saying, don't cry, Ginny, we'll send you a Hogwarts toilet seat. Like, and you just have to imagine that that's built on already a rapport of like that joking quality between the three of them. And, I love it. And I also love like how protective of her they are and how disapproving of her love life it is. And it's hilarious because they're just, oh, well, and what about Michael Corner? Well, and what is this I hear about Dean Thomas? Well, and it's all just in this like good, you don't need this love potion. I hear you've got things handled kind of way, which is, I think it's a great dynamic because I think especially older brothers, younger sisters, but either way, I think a good, healthy brother protective of a sister's love life. It gives me all the warm fuzzies. Maybe that's because my youngest brother was that kind of to me, and he's always been the person who's like, who do I need to beat up? Like, even though he's younger than me and everything, I just get that vibe of they're just like, all right, well, you seem to know what you're doing, but if you don't,
yeah,
we're here.
And it's so different from Ron, right?
Right.
Because like the way Ron, protects Ginny's virtue is just gross and slut shamey and just like, I don't like it and I'm not here for it. And like, I'm sure when we get to that section where they discovered Ginny and Dean kissing, I'm just like, no, it's not a good look for Ron. No. Whereas like with the Weasley twins, like, yeah, it doesn't feel like they're slut shaming her or anything. No. It's more like sort of like, A, they very much want to know what's going on. And B, they want to make sure that like she's good. She's like, all right. What's this I hear about this one boy? And then what's this I hear about the other boy? And like going through them a bit fast, aren't we? Like what all is happening there? Yeah. Like it's much more friendly.
And I love that the very first thing that like the very first line that starts out that whole interaction is whatever you've heard from Ron is a big fat lie. Because I love it. It's like, and then she tries to change the subject and are you or are you not currently going out with a boy called Dean Thomas? Yes, I am. And last time I looked, he was definitely one boy, not five. And then just like goes on and is like, so what about this guy? And she explains it and he's like, I don't know.
But and like they have been keeping track. They have been paying attention.
And I love that she just immediately goes to Ron and is like, I'll thank you not to tell tales about me to these two. And it's so funny.
Oh, it's so wholesome.
I love it so much. Yeah. That's how the relationships should be. Like they're looking after her best interests, but they're also like just kind of want the tea.
Yeah. All right. I feel like that's good. So just to wrap up, looking at the twins' like overall role in the series as like pranksters, I was thinking about it and I feel like it's a fairly rare archetype for me to actually encounter in the books I read. I haven't really read any like, merry pranksters like in the style of the Weasley twins. And I think part of it might be that like humor is hard to write because it's so subjective. Yeah. So like I think it's much more challenging than one would think to just write like really funny characters who like A, are actually funny to people, but B, don't cross the line into like being terrible.
Right.
So yeah, I was wondering if you guys have any analogs to the Weasley twins in other books that come to mind.
Good question.
Goodness. Not really. I mean, I think the closest is anything that's more of like any character that's more of like a trickster. But that's not quite the same. I mean, because usually the tricksters, even if they have, you know, some sort of redemptive character arc, they do tend to start out slightly more sinister. Like, you know, I'm thinking kind of like a Loki-esque type of person who, like, they might be a lovable trickster in some fashion, but they definitely like are more on the I'm going to cause havoc, and it's a little bit more dramatic than just like, haha, fun stuff. Let's have fun here. Yeah, that's a great question, because I'm struggling to think of anything that's more on the Fred and George side than the like, yeah, because I know there's like an Alice in Wonderland esque series that I'm thinking of, but that's definitely more of like a trickster character. No, it's not the Cheshire Cat, but but yeah, I it is really hard. I can't think of any. If you think of any, dear listener, put it in the comments so that we can all enjoy more merry pranksters.
Yeah, I'm drawing the blank as well, and I feel like it'll occur to me.
Yeah, listeners. I mean, I'm literally like sitting here looking at my like overflowing bookshelves.
I'm also doing the exact same thing.
And yeah, nothing really comes to mind.
I feel like there should be some, but I can't think of any right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, listeners, please. I'd love to.
We come to you.
Would love to hear.
And perhaps one of the reasons that Jo did such a good job writing them is because they were inspired by someone she knew. I dug this up from an online chat she did in 2000, which is more years ago than I care to think about. But it was an online chat at Barnes & Noble, like, you know, bn.com or whatever it was back then, where this user, Sam096, asks, were the Weasley twins inspired by anyone you know? And Jo said, yes, they were, but I don't want to say who, because they'll be persecuted. Oh my gosh. And I read this and I thought this was silly. And then I talked to Grace about the Weasley twins and I was like, you know what? Fair. So
this is true.
If someone out there, if you know J.K. Rowling and you think you were the inspiration for the Weasley twins, hit us up. Let's be friends. I feel like we'd get along great.
Yes. But don't let Grace know who you are.
No. We'll keep it on the DL.
And we promise we won't tell police anything.
I'm sure the statute of limitations is passed.
Yeah. It was all in the 90s. It's fine.
It's fine.
So, 7 ingredients of today's special is 7 members of the Weasley family if Molly and Arthur stopped with the twins. Sorry, Ron and Jenny.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Hey, you guys.
Yeah.
What is playing on the pub's jukebox today?
I'm so glad you asked because, I could have gone off on the topic. But the first song playing today is The Weasley Way by the Butterbeer Experience, which is all about the twins' rebellion against Umbridge. And just them singing like how, oh, Professor Umbridge, you'd better watch your back. And it's so satisfying. It's so like joyful to listen to. It also served as the anthem for my senior year of high school because we had an arsonist. It was fabulous. So much fun. This kid was setting fires in bathrooms. Like they were 100% like gonna put our school on lockdown and they were trying to figure out who it was, but no one would rat them out. The analogs were all there.
Oh, Professor Umbridge, you had better watch your back. You won't even know what hit you once we've started our attack. Who will make you see, will make you break, will make you burn, and we'll be sure to teach you the way you wanted us to learn. With pain, we'll drive you insane. The Weasley way. Let's cause a bit of mayhem since Dumbledore is gone. The fireworks should be enough to have her out by dawn. Cap and wheels and dragon head sparklers galore. We will show her hell like she's never seen before. Now the ministry is trying to take over our lives, so we'll fight for what's right. Oh, Professor Umbridge, we are never coming back, and we know the others will continue our attack. Ooh, they'll make you see, they'll make you break, they'll make you burn, and they'll be sure to teach you the way you wanted us to learn. With pain, we'll drive you insane. The Weasley way. The Weasley way. The Weasley way.
And also at the Pub's Jukebox, we encourage you to listen to the entire discography of Gret and Forge, which is a wonderful band, all from the perspective of the Weasley twins. But if I had to pick one track, which I did, it's going to be Alcohol Aftermath, about how the Weasley twins each have a romp with Angelina, and then afterwards Angelina's pregnant, but they don't know whose it is.
Wow.
Speaking of that icky factor that we discussed earlier.
That brought the ick. I had moved away from the ick factor, and it is back.
Oh, come on. It's not like I recommended Brotherly Love, which is exactly what it sounds like.
No.
Great big party in the common room. We got a little bit tipsy and flew off on our broom. It was me and Fred and Angelina Jane. Flew out to the country, had a roll in the hay. Now we got our problem just a little bit. Angelina's pregnant and we don't know whose it is. Now she's owling us every day, sending us a bunch of howlers that says we better pay. She had to quit school and move out on her own. She said she can't save her junior schooling as a single mom. She's taking all our money bit by bit, cause Angelina's pregnant and about to have our kid. She won't let us see it, just takes all she can get. Angelina told us she just had her red-haired kid. Now we're broken washing dishes at the Hog's Head, cause Angelina faked it and there never was a kid.
Okay, now that we have had an extensive discussion about the Weasley twins, we'd like to thank our guest, Grace, who was absolutely amazing, and it was fantastic to have somebody with so many hot takes.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh, Grace, it was so great. It was so great having you on. Like, listeners, I'm not gonna lie, I have had this episode in mind sort of from the word go. I was like, we need to have a Weasley Twins episode and we need to have Grace on it and just like, let the fireworks fly.
I can see why. I really can.
Oh.
So please, Grace, come again sometime. I would love to have you again and hear more of your hot takes.
Yes, definitely. And on the thanking train, thanks again to Shruka for buying us this round of drinks. If you, listener, would like to buy us the next round, please head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks. That's with the numeral 3 to sign up. You can also help by rating and reviewing us. And if you like our show, please don't forget to tell your friends. Word of mouth helps us hugely. And we always love to get in touch with new listeners.
Yeah. I mean, we asked you a lot of questions, like about, you know, your favorite Weasley products, you know, analogs to Fred and George. So we want to hear from you. And we can hear from you on social media. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. Our assorted handles and our email address can be found in the episode description or on our website. That website is 3broomstickspod.com. That's with the 3 spelled out. So there you will find links to all of the essays that we mentioned and all of the Wizard Rock songs. You can submit a topic. You can let us know all your thoughts on the show. And yes, we look forward to continuing the discussion with you guys.
Next time we meet at the 3 Broomsticks, we'll be discussing Goblet of Fire, Chapter 16. Goblet of Fire, the eponymous chapter. Did I use this word right?
You
Always wanted to
did.
use this
Yes.
word. Brilliant.
You
Look
did.
at all
Well
our
done.
vocabulary today.
Yes, it's growing.
We know so many words, y'all.
Thanks everyone for joining us for today's episode. And I'm Ev.
I'm Sierra.
And I'm Irvin. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time in the 3 Broomsticks. Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
This episode of The 3 Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
All right, I'm back.
I'm still here. My dog stole my blanket. I had a blanket in my lap and I put it on the ground when I went to get up. Are you moving or are you staying? And then now he's just curled up under my vest laying on my blanket, so that's rude.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in or are you out? I guess I can leave the door open now.
I'm back.
All right.
What are you eating, Irvin?
Mini croissants.
The who?
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, mini croissants just because I needed something,
Oh, mini
and it was the
croissants.
first thing I could grab.
Are they the chocolate ones?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh.
I'm jealous.
Man, I'm hungry now.
Me too.
Sorry.